Let's check it, everybody. Welcome to a Wednesday Liverpool soccer edition of House Divided. I'm just letting Chad know right out the gate that game starts in an hour and a half. He will have divided. It's House Divided. It will be divided attention today during the show. Good news is we got so many good guests today, it might not even matter. You might just completely ignore me starting at about 1:30, and maybe the show will be better for it. Thanks for coming in. Hit that thumbs up button. Slam it. Get notifications. Subscribe to the channel. 17,760 is where we are. It's a slow climb to 18,000. But you know what they say about YouTube? Once you get to 18,000, 8 billion comes right afterwards. It happens in a flurry. Guys, we got a lot of guests for you. Brian Jones will join us in about 18 minutes. Not on Thursday this week. The man, the myth, the legend from CBS Sports. He's got a lot of stuff going on this week. Army Navy is this week. So he's going to join us at 12:20. Brian Jones is 12:20. Peter Burns from the SEC Network will join us at 1:20. And at 2:20, just to have a little bit more college football fun, Max Olsen from The Athletic. We're going to be busy and full, and the show is just good. And I got my buy or sell questions done early today, Chad. So
look at you.
Look at me. Look at me.
Well done. Well done. I'm proud of you.
We will start where we started yesterday, I suppose. The portal is on fire, which means we're not going to wait till 12:40, although we'll probably circle back to it once we're done with Brian Jones. But right now, Chad, it's time.
Round one, fight! Finish him!
Ooh, they're adding names to that list, Ketch. They're adding names to that list. Where does it start today for you? Because I'm just trying to compute it all with all these different names that are coming into the portal. I know there's guys Texas is maybe looking at. Is that where we start? Guys that Texas may be getting out of the portal.
Well, first I want to start out with, I noticed that one of our competitors is using Portal Combat as one of their slogans now.
Is that right?
I guess stealing is the most sincere form of flattery.
I believe imitation is that phrasing.
There it is.
Imitation is the purest form of flattery.
It's one of those, if I'm like a cat, if I play with that ball long enough, I'll figure it out. You should probably start with University of Texas. They had a third guy enter the portal earlier today, Sawyer Gorham Welch. If you're wondering who that is, he hasn't played a lot of football over his tenure at Texas. But you know what he did do, Chad? He graduated.
That helps. That helps, and that makes this part of it easier, right?
Makes this part of it easier. He gets to go in as a grad transfer with 2 years of eligibility left. I don't know really what his level is, but he a loyal member of the team, a guy that graduated, and that's not insignificant in this era of the portal where guys are leaving in and out and things happen so quickly. It seems like getting a guy that graduates in 3 years is a rare thing to find. Helps the graduation rate. He was a great guy. Quite honestly, he opens up a spot for the Longhorns. As I mentioned before, they're at 3 in terms of yearly attrition since the start of the season. They need that number to probably be at least 10. And that's kind of the yearly average. Texas has hit almost double digits in every year since 2005. So it's part of what happens. These kind of numbers happen even before the portal existed. So the Longhorns open up a scholarship spot. I think, where would we lead? I guess let's start with, if I had future casts. I don't think Rivals, I haven't looked. Last year, Rivals didn't let us do future casts for guys in the portal. But I think there are a couple of guys in the portal that I would future cast to Texas today if I was allowed to do so. Number one, we talked about him a little bit, but that young safety, not really young, 3-year starter safety, Andrew Makuba from Clemson. I think he's a Longhorn waiting to happen. The more and more I checked around yesterday, I had a UT source kind of give me the double thumbs up with both him and another guy I'll get to in a second. We had an agent in the business mention that he had heard that was going to happen. So, like, the buzz is out that Clemson safety Andrew Makuba, former Austin LBJ star, in all likelihood, barring something unforeseen, I think he's going to end up as a Longhorn. We talked about this yesterday. I think he really improves the secondary. You're not getting an All-American, but you're getting a guy that, if he takes the next step, will go from being a really good starter, which is what he's been at Clemson, to something better than that, maybe all conference, maybe a player who's ready to be more than like a late round draft pick. Maybe he can become a day 2 type guy. I think people behind the scenes are really excited about him. And if I had the ability to put in a future cast, I think I would do it for South Carolina receiver Juice Wells, who spent most of this season injured, but a year ago is one of the best receivers in the SEC. He seems to be the guy at the wide receiver position early on. And I think they may take more than one, but right now it seems like he may be this staff's Huckleberry.
Interesting. Take a guy on each side of the Palmetto rivalry, a Clemson guy and a South Carolina guy, and then just cleanse both of their color palettes and throw them in burnt orange, possibly. Those are big. Real quick technical question maybe here, Ketch, but for you, when you start hearing things about like this, Makuba, Wells, whoever, let's say there's a guy, let's say Makuba was thinking about Texas for obvious reasons, right? For the LBJ connection, Coach Fenner back closer to home or whatever. Do you think nowadays a lot of these guys, maybe it's not Makuba, but do you think a guy like that reaches out
Yes,
all those channels first to know if there's interest before he actually goes?
100%.
Okay.
100%.
That's kind of what I think.
So, in fact, that stuff happens to such a degree that a lot of times these things are done. You know, we mentioned when Riley Leonard, the Duke quarterback, went into the portal, he had his do not disturb sign on his inside the portal when coaches go actually access the portal. And they're like, oh, Riley Leonard's in the portal. Let me get his phone number and contact info. That's what the portal is. It's a way for these coaches to reach out to these players. His had a do not disturb sign on it, which
they have those?
They do have those.
It's like my hotel room.
Yes.
I can just hang it on the door and say, hey, y'all, I'm in the portal, but I need a minute.
I'm in the portal, but I don't want to hear from you.
I got my own ideas and y'all ain't it. I'll call you.
That happens a lot. You know, I can remember when Jaquindon Jackson and Cameron Rising a few years ago transferred from Texas to Utah. They announced their commitments to Utah, it felt like within 24 hours. And so these things, it just is. It's my favorite part of the year. Might have been when Sarkisian was asked about the portal and all of this stuff. And he just shrugged his shoulders. He didn't act like it was the boogeyman. It's the way things are done now. And what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Texas, through some short form or fashion, almost certainly knew that Makuba was going into the portal before he entered the portal. Just like there are coaches on other programs that will know when some of the Texas players enter the portal, they'll know. And it's just to remind everybody, there are 2 portal windows. There is a spring portal window. Like, so you get towards the back, I think it's from the 16th of April until the end of April. There will be a second portal window, but for now, it essentially goes, I guess you've got 15 days from the 14th to go in, but you can make your announcements early January. So some of these guys will take it all the way through the early part of the bowl season. If you're Texas, someone asked about, like, this is a bad system and for the playoff teams. And I was like, yes, for every team other than the bowl teams, this is perfectly fine. Now's the time, especially if you're getting ready to play in an insignificant bowl. Like, trust me, these players got to do what you got to do. Plus, you got to be ready to start at another school at the beginning of the semester. So, it kind of has to happen now. It's not like you can do this in January and then enroll at the school of your choice 3 weeks after the semester starts. Like, it's not generally how it happens. So it's inconvenient, but this is when it happens. And yes, third Longhorn goes in. I would expect we'll see a few more. And then I think the Longhorns are getting a little bit – I think you can start to see what the Longhorns are doing from a coming into focus standpoint. Mm-hmm. And I kind of like the initial plan. We see these two guys, Juice Wells and Andrew Makuba, that addresses wide receiver. And in the secondary, they want to take a couple of interior defensive linemen. I think I could see them taking a defensive end edge player to compete with Barron Sorrell next year. And maybe not compete with Barron Sorrell so much as they need more production from that defensive end spot in general. When they move Sorrell around, this could be a Justice Finkley type competition. Haven't seen them do it yet, but I think that when you saw a guy like Trey Moore, the kid from UTSA, who was the American Conference Player of the Year, if they end up being able to get in on a kid like that, I think it's as much about the position opposite Collin Simmons than it would be like trying to bring someone in to compete with him and Ethan Burke and some of the other guys. They want linebacker help. So you can start to see the makings of what a portal class will look like for the Longhorns. And I think Makuba and Wells would be an excellent, starting position for them. The Aggies had another 5-star defensive tackle go into the portal. What can you tell me about that guy, Chad?
And taking his brother with him too. Both of the Overton brothers are now in the portal. Mekhi Overton and LT Overton, which I believe
is the former 5-star.
Right. LT's the badass. LT, not that Mekhi is not a badass, but LT's the one that was, I believe, the number one player by some rankings in the 23 class. He reclassified to the 22 class.
Yep.
And then went to A&M. He picked A&M over some terrible schools like Bama, Clemson, Georgia, Oregon, Ohio State, and Oklahoma. That's the level of guy that we're talking about. And what I was reading today, Ketch, his mother, yesterday we talked about another situation. You were talking about what Walter Nolan's dad was saying. This is the Overton's mother making comments. And one of the things that I think is easy to forget about what's happened to this A&M team, in addition to all the obvious, was the death of Terry Price. And apparently Coach Price was really close to these two young men. They valued that relationship. So I think maybe we could all understand the idea of the Jimbo thing falls apart. Your line coach, your position coach dies. The guy that was your line coach that might have been sticking around isn't sticking around. He's going to go take a head coaching job after the bowl game. So there's a lot of things that are going on there. I think with the Overton,
and he's a ways away from home.
He is. That's true. He is. It's weird. They are listed. There's a lot of different ways to look. They're listed as, I think, is it Georgia guys from one standpoint, but then I clicked on the pronunciation of Mekhi Overton's name and he said his hometown is Fort Worth. So there was a lot of, there's a couple different versions of it. But yes, in theory, these are guys that went to school in Georgia that you can understand why they're looking at maybe, Georgia and Bama and other schools like that. So yes, they're in the portal. Also, Jake Johnson is in the portal. The tight end, brother of Max Johnson. Max Johnson already went in. Jake's really good. I like him. And if you have him in an offense where you like to show off your tight end, and they did some good things with Jake. I didn't realize he was the number 2 tight end prospect in that whole class. I didn't realize he was quite that highly rated, but he's really good. And better than Max, I would say. I mean, his top end to me is better than Max's, where if they both are the best version of themselves, I think he's a better tight end than Max is a quarterback. Max, I think, may end up at North Carolina. So if we're going to keep the brother thing going on and, dad wants to show up with those guns and watch in the gear, maybe Brad Johnson Ketch is going to go after some Tar Heel Blue, and maybe Mac Brown is going to end up with both of the Johnson brothers. But they are now both in the portal. And from what I'm reading today, Max is, I don't know if it's signed, sealed, and delivered to North Carolina, but the idea is that's where he's going.
And then a local boy from Austin who is making it big in the SEC, he's joined in the portal. There's been a lot of discussion about whether he would or wouldn't. Florida edge rusher. God, and I've never said this guy's name correctly.
Come on, Ketch. You can do it. You can do it. Come on. Come on.
When I'm done, will you be able to follow me up with the correct pronunciation?
I'll follow you up with what I've been saying the whole time. Is it right? I don't know, but I'll get close.
Princely Umanmielen.
That's basically where I was going to be. I've always said Umanmielen. Yes.
Okay. Princely Umanmielen is in 6'5", 255-pound edge rusher, defensive end, second team all SEC, had 11.5 tackles for loss, 7 sacks, 17 quarterback hurries this year. One of the better players in the Florida program. He's in the portal. He will be heavily sought after.
Oh, hell yes, he will be. And that's a Maynard product, correct?
I was about to say, and you would have to think that the Longhorns would be very interested in him. He is from Maynard, Texas. He is a guy that looked at UT during the recruiting process. I have not yet heard just how interested Texas either would or wouldn't be. I have to believe they'll kick the tires on that. But I have to believe as a second team all SEC defensive end that he's going to be a guy that a lot of people have an interest in. For those that don't remember him as a high school prospect, he was in the class of 2021. I think that's right? No, class of 2020. He was class of 2020. And there was a lot of thought that he might go to Texas. He was a low 4-star coming out of Maynard, rated by Rivals as the number 36 prospect in the state. I mean, everybody's, I think, going to try to. He visited Oklahoma. He visited Texas A&M. Again, Texas was a school that he gave some consideration. So I think that all the usual suspects will be looking at him. And he's probably a top 5-10 player in the portal right now.
Yeah, and some people may remember he's got a little brother with a very similar first name. He's named Princely. His brother's name is Prince Will Umanmielen, and he ended up at Nebraska. I don't know how everything is going for him at Nebraska, but who knows nowadays. That's a very talented family. I know the Maynard community is rooting for them, and right now a lot of Texas fans are rooting for him to head back towards home.
Or just don't go to OU or A&M.
Yeah, right. Or just don't go to one of the rivals. But yeah, he's from right down the road from where I am right now. And shout out to the Maynard Mustangs. A lot of talent coming out of there. Texas just faced a former Maynard guy in Taj Brooks from the Texas Tech running back. He was a Maynard guy. A lot of talent coming through Maynard.
It's amazing how much talent has been coming out of Maynard over the course of the last 10 or 15 years. When I was a high school student, and that's a long time ago, but for long stretches, I wouldn't say that Maynard was a hotbed for talent. I can remember when John Wyndham came out in the 99 class and signed with Texas. It was like, oh, Maynard's got a guy. And then steadily since then, it seems like as every year goes by, they got something in the water down there.
Yeah. As we get towards 400 folks in the Specs chat, we are just about ready to chat with Brian Jones. Before we do that, Blake, let's give him 15 seconds of Specs. Remember, if you're getting a party together, Specs can make sure it is awesome. Here we go.
No matter what you're needing, Specs same-day delivery can save the day with our Specs app or online shopping. From world-class wines to hard-to-find spirits and craft beers to gourmet foods, delicious snacks, and spectacular sweets. It's Specs. Cheers to savings.
Or if you just want to drink alone, they can help you there too. I don't want to leave anybody out.
The bottom line is they're there to deliver.
They'll do it. Specs app. You can get it delivered, specsonline.com. They've got ideas on, cocktail recipes and stuff. They'll help you in every way.
Well, and as the holidays get near, you might not want to be on the road. You just don't want to deal with the traffic.
Yep.
Let Specs deal with the traffic. Let them deliver to you.
Yep. And as I've said, if you want to go check out a new location, you're in the Austin area, and especially if you're out in Pville, Pflugerville, folks, Stone Hill, the old Best Buy is now a Specs. Just saying. I've walked through it. It takes a while. It's a big one. All right. We got guests lined up today, and this is one of our favorites we get every week. And when his schedule gets a little weird, he doesn't big time us. He doesn't say, "I'm sorry, gentlemen, but my schedule won't allow it." No, he changes it up. He'll go walking through the bowels of CBS Sports if we need him to. He screams at people to be quiet while he's talking to us. And even when it's Army Navy, he'll rearrange his schedule for us. He is Brian Jones of CBS Sports. 2:00 Saturday is the legendary Army Navy game. Check it out on CBS. Mr. Jones, how are you?
I am outstanding, and Ketch, that's the hold that Chad has on me, man. Whatever he says, I have to adhere. So he put
Does he have a sex tape or something of you that is you're forever committed to do whatever he asks?
That's
See,
terrible.
I wasn't gonna put that out there, but no.
Okay.
He better not.
I do not. No.
But my man has a hold on me, and I am forever indebted to Chad and Kevin and Trey, because when we work together, they help me become more of a professional. Now, I'm still a work in progress, but I'm serious. The cats were so much fun, and when I reflect on my time with them, they knew what the hell they were talking about. So they made me a better radio host, and Chad gave me some of that tough love, would crack the whip on my big ass back then, even though I could squash him. He was serious about the craft, and so whenever he calls, I'm listening, and if I can adjust whatever, I'm going to make it happen.
Well, Brian, I appreciate it. I also appreciate you for not squashing me back in the day. So if I haven't thanked you for that, let me officially thank you once again for not squashing me, because I probably deserved it.
I couldn't do it today, but back then I still had a few muscles.
Oh, yeah, you did.
Your ass.
Yeah, you did. No, you
Let's
could
also not act like he doesn't want to show up and take a victory lap today. His Longhorns are in the playoffs. If he was going to make any appearance all year long, now's the one to make.
Now is the one. And Brian, congrats to your Longhorns. I know you're proud of them because they've really put on a show these last couple of weeks. Tell me what you saw against Oklahoma State and the case that you saw them make for that committee.
I saw a complete obliteration of Oklahoma State. Payback was served to a team that has had our number. As you guys know, the stats and how for some reason they replaced K-State as that team being a thorn in our side. So that was an excellent victory. And as far as making the case for Texas with Alabama beating Georgia, and I said this at halftime of our SEC championship game, if this continues with Bama leading and ultimately winning, there ain't no way they're gonna get in the playoff before Texas, and that's what occurred. Now I feel horrible for Florida State. You play and you go out there and you win every game they put in front of you, and you overcome adversity, you overcome obstacles, obviously overcoming losing your star quarterback, and yet you don't get into this playoff. But we all know this is about entertainment, baby. And that playoff committee, they're a burn victim considering what happened in the championship game a season ago. So they wanted to prevent that from occurring, but you can't predict a team losing its quarterback and their defense not being able to overcome that, except for when you've got a couple iterations where that inept offensive performance aligned with the national narrative that was being spun about Florida State. So that's why they were left out. And they need to understand it's not personal, it's just business. And this was a business decision. They wanted the four most competitive teams in there from which they could see. We might get another blowout. You never know. Remember, Michigan State won the Big Ten. They played Alabama, and Alabama beat like 49-3. Alabama beat Notre Dame in that BCS Bowl. I think that was our last BCS Bowl, demolished them in the championship game. So that might occur again. But when your offense is looking as weak as they did last week, and that was hard to watch that ACC championship game, I can't lie. You basically set yourself up to be skipped. And they've been saying this, the committee, for a while, the national narrative for a while. Without Jordan Travis, this isn't the same team, yada, yada, yada. So I would have rather they had slid Florida State to the 5th spot, because we knew that's what they were going to do. They should have slid them to the 5th spot a couple weeks ago instead of waiting till last week to really break their hearts. But I feel for those players, man. You go out there and you do your all, and you go 13-0. And Florida State has some brand recognition. While that being said, they're similar to Texas. They have been off the beaten path for a while. They've gone through a rough patch, as Texas has. But I do believe if Georgia had won, you would have had Georgia, Michigan, you would have had Washington, and then the debate would have been Texas or Florida State. And I believe the same thing would have occurred. Texas would have gotten in over Florida State.
Brian, when did you, in your mind, when did you know that Texas was in, and when did you start having a feel for, you know what, both Texas and Alabama are going to be in? Is this as simple as soon as the SEC championship game ended, or did you need some time to absorb everything that had happened on over the course of Championship Saturday?
Our game, Texas played earlier, and so once they won, and once they won in the manner in which they defeated Oklahoma State, I knew they were in. I said they're in. And going back to my previous statement, if Georgia had come back and won that game versus Bama, it would have been Georgia, it would have been Michigan, it would have been Washington, and Texas would have gotten in over Florida State. I believe they would have. So Florida State would have been in the same boat, whether it was Bama or Texas that was vying for that 4th spot. And obviously Texas got the 3rd spot, but Florida State was just they were going to be in a world of hurt. So once Texas won, I was like, we're in. And that's why I started beating that drum at halftime, obviously in our post game. Like, we're in. Yeah, ain't no way you gonna keep us down. You must be crazy. You're gonna have to pick up and move that operation out of Dallas if you think you're gonna poop on the horns. So yeah, I was confident that they were gonna be in.
See, Ketch, we've been talking about Sark asking the local media to start making their case. He knows he's got some national media at times that if he put on the right show, they're going to make their case. He knew old number 60 was going to make that case nice and loud on CBS.
That's why I let him into practice back in August. He was like, let us show you, Brian, what we got back here, what's under the hood.
Dude, I got so much grief from all those senior VPs of communication on the Malcolm X platform. They described my politicking for Texas. Hell, I didn't need to really do any politicking. They did it for me on the field, especially these last 2 weeks. And Texas had to overcome some things. They lost their starting quarterback. They lost their starting running back. No one's discussing that. All I hear is, well, Alabama's better and they did this. They are better. But what about what Texas had to overcome? I don't hear anyone discussing that.
Hey, Brian, Ketch has been asking this question throughout the week. I think it's a fascinating discussion to kind of an entry point into these 4 teams. These 4 quarterbacks, when they're on, they're really impressive to watch. Talk to me about Milroe. You got to see him up close and personal, and they did slay that dragon from Athens, Georgia, and they're going to try to avenge. If they get there, they could get an opportunity to avenge what happened with Texas. What's impressed you most about Milroe since the Longhorns did that and Saban sat him down?
First of all, let me address some of your listeners. They like, what's the Malcolm X platform? That's how I refer to the new X platform. I call it the Malcolm X platform. Okay, we got that out of the way. uh,
I know what you meant, Brian.
Yeah, I know you did. A couple of your other people did. So
We didn't land on social media. Social media landed on us. Go ahead.
Exactly. There we go. Thank you, Chad. There it is. If you don't know that reference, go watch the movie Malcolm X with Denzel Washington. Jalen Milroe is a heck of an athlete. Big dude. I mean, what he did in that Auburn ball game, and I blame Auburn's defensive strategy there at the end, but that they had a 3rd and 20, and he gets 19, and he and the defender meet. It was a DB, and the DB got the worst of that affair because this is a big dude. He's strong. Obviously, he can run. He's been showcasing that all season long, but he's gotten better as a passer. But I will say this, he holds the ball too long. So if you can cover for 2-3 seconds, this guy's got 1, 2, and then he takes off. And what I like about Texas' chances, again, whether it's Washington and if they get another bite at the apple versus Bama, is that they don't always have to bring the blitz to apply pressure. That front four, and especially T'Vondre Sweat, and on our show last night, I said he's going to be my MVP of the CFP because of that dude. Why do those rodeo clowns survive? Because those bulls can only make certain moves. Well, this Longhorn can make every damn move at 350 or whatever he is. So he's big difference in the rodeo bull. He's very athletic. He's got a ton of agility. He's powerful. And so if he can continue to apply pressure and the rest of the guys on that D-line, they can keep Milroe in that pocket, and that's going to be key. You can't just let him sit back there and survey the field. I think Georgia may have had 2 sacks in the ball game the other day, but you got to get after him. You got to cover up. Now that's my big question mark if Texas is to face Alabama, even this Washington game. How can that secondary hold up? And I told Neuheisel at the beginning of the season, my big question mark about this team is going to be the secondary. And I know they've had some injuries back in that secondary, Catalan and others, but that's the big question mark. You got some young pups who've been playing well with the opportunities they've garnered. Well, they're gonna have to step it up a notch because we're in the big leagues now, baby. This college football playoff, and yes, Bama has gotten better. The quarterback has gotten better. They're protecting better, but I don't think they've seen a D-line such as Texas since Texas, and that's going to be the key to get after Milroe. But he's throwing the ball a heck of a lot better. You know, his completions of 30 or more yards, they're second only to Jaden Daniels. And that's how effective he is down the field. And he's got a nice array of wide receivers. But, man, he's one heck of an athlete playing quarterback. And I guess you could say he's a hell of a quarterback now, too. He has progressed. And the dude's attitude after being benched following the Texas defeat and then what happened there at USF, and just to stay focused, stay in the game, and continue to work on his craft. And I think that's why you saw all that emotion pouring out of him following the SEC championship game, because it's about that journey. And he's had one heck of a journey this year with everyone giving up on him. And now Tommy Rees has identified what he does well, and they're utilizing his legs and those QB runs. And look at how he closed out the game the other night. Georgia needed one stop, get that ball back. They couldn't. They could not stop him. He had a nice long run and was smart enough not to go out of bounds, sat there on his butt, allowed that clock to keep running. So he's a smarter player, and he's a better quarterback than he was earlier this season.
Brian, I'm going to go ahead and ask the question that Chad alluded to. Every guest that we've had on this week, I've asked to rank the 4 quarterbacks because all 4 of them are in the top 14 in passing efficiency this year. So they're all really good. If you were to rank the 4 quarterbacks, what order would you put them in? And everybody's list has been different so far, right, Chad? Like there's been no consensus.
Right.
I'd go Penix. I'd go Penix, Ewers, Milroe, and then J.J. McCarthy. And McCarthy hadn't done a damn thing here of late. Offensively, man, I think he was sacked 4 times in that Iowa game, the Big Ten championship. So I shouldn't say he hadn't done anything late. He had that one dynamite pass versus Ohio State when he threw it over the defender's head who had his back to him. That was excellent. But that would be my list. Penix, Ewers, Milroe, and then J.J. McCarthy. Anyone have it such as my list?
I don't know that we've had anybody that immediately goes to Penix first.
We had somebody yesterday that had Ewers and Penix as 1A and 1B. Right. So
you got to factor in. You got to factor in Milroe's wheels, man. That dude, he's gonna extend plays, and his down the field is off the charts. As I said, he's second only to Jay Daniels. Those passes 30 or more, especially in the second half of the season. And the plays he made the other day on 4th down and 3rd downs, and he had the little shovel pass to Bond, and then he threw the one 4th down pass to Bond that should have been reviewed, that wasn't. This guy, he's seen the field better, and he's become a much, much better quarterback, and he still doesn't know all the little nuances that go along with playing that position. So, I would have him 3rd, then J.J. McCarthy, and then just Ewers, excellent game. What was it, 452 he threw for last week? Big 12 record. Man, he was off the charts. The one interception, obviously would love to have that back. But, that's my list. Penix didn't have a lot of touchdowns, but threw for over 300 in the Pac-12 championship ball game. But here's a guy, when need be, he can use his will. So I'd have him first, even though his second half of the season, and that's the reason I thought Oregon would beat him. Obviously, that didn't occur. Second half of the season, the numbers have come down. Points have come down. His numbers have come down. But he's still, when you get in the thick of it, man, he knows how to make the plays.
Brian, let's stay with Penix, because this matchup with Texas is going to be really interesting. It's obviously the part of the Texas defense people will talk about, the pass defense. It's been susceptible at times. To me, if Watts doesn't play and McMillan is now back healthy, just those two things could really give Washington some advantages. Talk to me about the Texas defense trying to match up. Oklahoma got some things rolling against Texas in the pass game. I can't think of anything else they've faced that would be close to what Penix and those guys have.
That's it. They've got 3 dynamite wide receivers. Now they've added the running ability of Dylan Johnson. He's really started clicking since that USC ball game, and he was huge the other night versus Oregon. That's another big reason why they won, because they had balance. You got to match up to those guys, but I love this pass rush of Texas. Again, just to reiterate, they don't have to bring the blitz. They will do it. You'll see some cat blitzes and things of that nature. They'll bring the safety from time to time, but Sweat and Murphy and Burke at the end, or Wilson. Why I keep calling him Zero? What's his damn name? I always forget the freshman's name for some reason.
You talking about Adunze? No,
for Texas, the linebacker.
Oh, Anthony Hill. Sorry.
Anthony Hill.
You forget his name all the time.
Yeah.
I'm losing it, dog. Y'all see y'all.
And Brian, don't feel bad. When you, as an old man, it's weird when you forget the simple stuff, isn't it? When you sit there for 3 minutes and you're like, what was that dude's name? Bill. That was his name. Something real basic. You forget Hill.
We don't have to drive ourselves crazy anymore, because all you gotta do is get on the Google machine, right? But I have you. You guys are my Google machine. I always forget Anthony Hill's name. I don't know why. He's a hell of a player. Hopefully he got freshman of the year or something in the Big 12. I didn't see it, but
he did.
Right. They bring him at times and gets these spread offenses, but they don't really have to. But it'd be great if Watt back out there, a veteran presence. 5, Muhammad has played well at times. 8, he's played well. I'm concerned a little bit at the safety position. My man, 28. That's Thompson.
Thompson, very good.
Hey, I didn't need your help, Thompson. See, I got
Done.
he struggled when they isolated. They got a big one on him in the Bama game. If you guys remember, they able to get him solo. So that's a concern. But man, if you can bring that heat, I think it's going to be a back and forth affair. Obviously, some of those guys saw this offense a year ago in that Alamo Bowl when they lost 27-20. But man, they're clicking. They got to bring pressure. The offensive line for Washington's playing much better. Reason why the rushing game has ticked up. But if they can cover these guys or get to Penix without having to bring an extra guy, that's going to bode well for Texas. I think it's going to be a high-scoring affair, and they'll go back and forth.
If you had to bet every Christmas present that you receive this year on it, you like Texas and Alabama in a rematch?
First of all, I don't get any Christmas presents. I don't even get jacked up for it. Okay, whatever. My favorite holiday is Thanksgiving. I don't need no gifts. Just happy to see another one. But yes, I would bet everything. I think it's going to be Texas. I think it's going to be Alabama in a rematch. And
you're getting a glare, by the way, behind you. It looks like she does not like you perpetrating this myth that she won't be giving you any Christmas presents.
Yeah, I'll probably get a present for her. I got a present for her too. Glad when she gets back home. I just got home. No. Why did you make me go there, Ketch?
I did not know. I was thinking presents.
I got a present too.
Oh my goodness!
I've been home in 2 days, and I'm leaving again tomorrow to go up to Providence for the game in Foxborough. I gotta, you gotta tickle the wife when you get home. Come on.
Hey, it's a good theory. I like it. I agree.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a rematch.
From getting into trouble.
Yeah.
What's that?
I'm just keeping my mouth shut. I'm trying to keep us from getting into trouble.
Hey, Brian, let me ask this question because you'll be the first person today on this show to discuss it at all. Ketch and I jumped in. We were talking about some of the portal stuff, but we haven't talked about A&M's choice at OC. Give me a thought on Collin Klein as the new OC at A&M.
Oh, coming from K-State.
Correct.
Oh, wow. Oh, be interesting. Who's going to be quarterback? They got that young cat, huh? He's more of a dual threat guy, similar to Collin Klein was during his playing days, or Will Howard and who he has there, and the young cat who's going to be taking over now that Howard is transferring. All right, they had some pretty good offenses there at K-State. Good quarterbacks. I can see that happening.
Okay.
We'll have to wait and see, obviously.
He didn't seem overly enthusiastic about it, Chad.
I don't give a damn about A&M and Collin Klein at all. You're right. I'm sorry. You read through that.
That's good. That was
who gives a rat's ass about your Aggies right now?
That's fairly
I'm so
mild.
glad that you leaned into it, Chad.
Yeah,
Somebody could speak it into your face.
That's fairly mild. I was hoping I was leaning for something other than a rat's ass. But anyway, Ketch, do you have another one before I try to make Brian actually swear or not?
Well, I was gonna ask him about Michigan and Alabama, but if you're gonna go in that direction,
no, go right ahead.
Well, Michigan, I don't know if they have enough offense. I don't know if they have enough offense against Alabama the way they're playing right now. That running game, can they bludgeon Alabama? I'm not so sure, especially losing one of their main guys, Zenter, on that offensive line. That's going to be interesting to watch. But I don't know if they have the firepower. You got to spread those guys out, be able to spread the ball around, running it and passing. I'm not so sure Roman Wilson's going to strike fear in Bama the way they're playing right now.
All right, Brian, before we let you go, anybody's grandmother can say rat's ass. Give us a real swear, man. Your Longhorns are in the CFP. Let's go.
Well, I tried to tell you, huh?
So plus the wife ain't home.
That's right. You need to hear it back. I'm getting horny. I tried to tell you motherfuckers a week ago we were gonna be in the play. Y'all don't like to listen. Anyway, I gotta go. I gotta jump on a CBS Sports Army Navy conference call. I found a house in Texas. I'm coming back. I'm coming back at a great time. Hook 'em.
Nice. Thanks, Brian.
Brian
All right,
Jones,
love you guys. We'll talk later.
Thank you, man.
the immortal number 60.
That's it. Brian Jones, CBS Sports. I just got him to say motherfucker before he gets on an Army Navy call. Fantastic. Fantastic. Actually, I didn't get him to say that word. He chose that word. I just needed him to swear. Rat's ass.
Him saying that he's horny for his wife counts as a curse word.
No, that just counts as good old-fashioned marriage happiness. That's all that is. That's just happily married people. You know what they say sometimes, Ketch, when you're in those traveling relationships, that can keep the fire going because you're moving, you're busy.
The pilot is lit. The pilot is lit.
Right. You got to schedule those things. You got to schedule those out sometimes when you're traveling a lot. Thanks to Brian, 2:00 Saturday for Army Navy. Ketch, we got crazy things going on. There's additional portal information. There's more bad news for my Aggies that we will get to. But before we get there, let me tell everybody real quick about McCullough Heating and Air Conditioning. Things are heating up in College Station or cooling down, however you want to look at it. Today's one of those days I woke up and it was 30-something, and later on it's going to be mid-60s, high 60s or whatever. Make sure your heater and your air conditioner are ready for this time of year, but especially ready for what's coming in the summertime. 518-0119, McCullough Heating and Air Conditioning. They've been doing it since 1977. That's your QR code to scan. You can go to coolmenow.com and look at it this way. For only $39, the diagnostic fee, they'll take a look. $39, they'll come check you out, see where your system is, where things are, and they will not sell you something you don't need. There will be no hidden fees. They have over 1,500 4.8 star ratings on Google, and I've been telling you, right here at the end of the year, you can take advantage of all kinds of good stuff like 0% financing for up to 6 years and up to $5,900 on rebates, discounts, and tax credits in 2023 if you need a new system, but make sure you get that done before the end of the year. They got all kinds of cool stuff for you, cool or heated stuff, whatever you need. 518-0119, McCullough Heating and Air Conditioning. All right, so while we were talking to Brian,
hold on, let's get the music.
Oh, we gotta bring it back. I guess that's true. We should bring it back.
It's gonna be like breaking news.
Yeah, Longhorn fans, get ready. You're gonna smile on this one.
Round one. Fight! Finish him!
All right, Ketch, I'll draw the line at actually having to say the name first. So why don't you go ahead and say it? First it was Walter Nolan, and now?
I need you to tell me how big of a loss this is, but true freshman, offensive line starter, and former 5-star Chase Besantis, is that how you say his last name?
I believe so, yes.
He is officially in the portal. Another out-of-state guy who committed to one thing, and now the program's a completely different thing, and now he's in the portal. It's interesting. He was a freshman starter for the Aggies ahead of some other guys that had been there longer and played some, and I've seen some Texas fans say he's trash, he's not that good. I always think that's a hard thing to say about an offensive lineman that's starting as a freshman. I mean, he's got to have something in there to be on the field as a true freshman. You tell me, what is this from a loss standpoint for the Aggies?
I mean, to me, it absolutely sucks. A freshman All-American. I'm not telling you he was going to turn into a Joko or a Matthews in 3 years, but that's the path. It's the guy that, like I always talk about, guys that have to play versus guys that get to play. He felt like a little bit of a combo this year. That was part of it where maybe because of what was going on with the offensive line, there was a little bit of the have to play, but I thought there was a little bit of that he gets to play as well. To me, it's not Walter Nolan, obviously, in terms of a level of loss, but now you're on the other side of the ball, Ketch, where, it feels like you're going to be headed into a blue collar X's and O's kind of vibe you're trying to create around your team. I think this kid could have been a big part of it. So for me, it's a big loss.
He started all 12 games at right tackle. He's not Kelvin Banks, but man, the number of guys that start from day one in the SEC at tackle, I think Texas fans have underrated him a little bit. I think they forget how good guys can get along the offensive line when you don't look at them through the prism of the right now, but through the prism of give him 3 years, give him 2 years to develop a little bit, right? We saw DJ Campbell in year 2 take a big climb this year. You think about on the defensive side of the ball, some of the guys that Texas has had, Tavondre Sweat is the best example of when you give them enough time and really let them spread their wings. He's a starter. This is a kick in the gonads for the Aggies where
no doubt
they've got a bunch of guys on the defensive line and it feels like they lose one, they've got 5 others, even though they've now lost more than one.
This is big. That's big right there.
You tell me how big that is.
Fadil Diggs a badass. Love that guy. Love it. Love 10. I'm going to be sorry to see him go. He's a really good player. Really good player. Fadil is, God, I think he might be another one of the out-of-state guys. Double check it for me. I think Diggs
he has to be. He's an older guy, too, because he was in the class of 2020. He's from New Jersey. He's definitely –
there you go.
You start seeing these are the ones that I was like, how in the hell
I know.
Jimbo Fisher getting dudes from New Jersey to go to Texas A&M? This guy came to play for Jimbo Fisher, and Jimbo Fisher's not there anymore, and it makes a lot of sense from that standpoint.
Yeah, there you go. So Basantis and Diggs. We already mentioned Jake Johnson. It's like I said yesterday, Ketch, on each side of the house divided, I don't think there's any better way to tell you what the health of each side is right now than how each side is looking at the portal. Because one side is looking at the portal like a menu at a restaurant on payday. And the other side is looking at it like, geez, what's the example? The other side is looking at it like you walked into the dance with your girl and there's like 8 guys on the other side of the room and you're scared all of them are going to take her. I mean, Aggies right now just have to be reeling on what else. But Texas fans know when they hear portal news, it's probably good news. So it's just the contrast of it right now. We hope we are a unique show in that regard, that we're hitting both sides of house divided. Like I've said, it's not house divided evenly, but certainly when there is Aggie stuff like this, we're going to talk about it and get into it because we do know it makes you Longhorn fans smile a little bit, understandably. So there's a lot going on, obviously, in College Station right now.
Can I paint the picture for you?
What's that?
You were trying to find the metaphor, the example of what the moment is for the Aggies.
Mm-hmm.
It's the scene in Almost Famous when they think the plane's going to crash.
Never seen Almost Famous.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
There's another one for you. By the way, I've recorded No Country for
Almost Famous.
No Country for Old Men on my DVR, ready to go. And The Criminals at Prime Video took my free Dr. No away, so screw them. I'm not finishing that movie if they're going to make me pay, so I'll switch over to No Country for Old Men.
Oh, I've got to have Almost Famous. You still got a DVD player?
Yes.
Like if I send you a physical copy of Almost Famous, you're going to really like Almost Famous.
Oh, I know. Yeah, there's elements of that movie that were just made for me, right? Cameron Crowe and Kate Hudson, and it's about music and all that stuff. So and let me double check. It might be on the DVR too, just way down there. I probably recorded it 4 years ago and I still haven't watched. Let me check. I'll let you know.
I'm disappointed. I go to an Almost Famous metaphor and the person literally on the show with me doesn't know what the metaphor is. So I need you to watch Almost Famous.
Yeah.
Maybe even in front of all of the other movies so that you can come back as soon as possible and either tell me that's exactly how I feel or no, that's not it at all.
Yeah, let me tell you what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to be watching a movie so that at the end of it, I will be able to properly process my feelings about all this Aggie stuff right now.
That
That's
doesn't
not how to.
sound like okay, yeah.
That is not how to get me to watch that movie.
Chad, if you watch this movie, you know that kick in the nuts feeling that you have? It'll
Yeah.
really sink in. No, you're
It's
right.
really gonna have. It'll really have it
best
in.
sales pitch of all time.
Oh my God. All right. So as we're getting towards the top of the hour here, we got buy or sell coming. Peter Burns of SEC Network at 120. Max Olsen's coming up at 220. Today in the crap bag at 2:00. I thought I'd do something a little weird. Since Brian was jumping on with us today, I started thinking about that 1990 Texas team and where they would have been if we had a 12-team playoff. So we'll take a look at the 12-team playoff for 1990 coming up at 2:00. Real quick, Ketch, we got a couple minutes. Give me your thought on Collin, Klein. I hadn't even heard about that idea until last night. And then today, apparently, it ramps up to where they're reporting now he's going to be the next OC at A&M. What do you think of the idea?
It's okay. Kansas State, when you look at their record on offense this year, was pretty good. You know, I think they were a top 25 offense in general. I look at the fact that Will Howard left. I feel like they haven't really figured out the quarterback position in the last couple of seasons. That last year they were going back and forth between Howard and Martinez. This year, Will Howard had a good year, but when he went into the portal, my thought process was, well, he wants to go to an offense that gives him a better platform to get ready for the NFL. And I don't look at Kansas State's offense as, you know, when the Aggies hired Bobby Petrino, the idea that he would run his offense, forget about what happened. When the move was announced, there was a sense of like, oh, well, when Bobby Petrino gets it cooking, he can cook. I don't know. I think it's a great job for Collin Klein, because I think if he has success, he'll get a head coaching job out of this. But I don't think anybody across the country is going to A&M to play for Collin Klein. Like I don't remember the Cam Coleman kid that just flipped from A&M back to Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that you go, Cam, before you sign with Auburn,
Right.
let us at least tell you what we're doing. Collin Klein. And I don't think he's going, oh shit, Collin Klein, why didn't you say so? It's like sending the wolf. I don't think he's the wolf. I think he's a good football coach. I think he did a good job this year. When I heard about it, I thought to myself, well, Texas fans will be happy. They won't hear that name and think, oh, well, next year when it comes to the most badass offensive players in the state of Texas, they'll have anything to worry about if it's a Sark versus Collin Klein. And I think considering it's the biggest hire that A&M is going to be making, it's a little risky. But I have a lot of respect for him as a coach. I think he's good. But at no point did I think to myself when watching Kansas State this year, A, man, their offense is badass. And B, did I think, oh, Collin Klein's going to be the next hot name on the collegiate circle. So I'm stuck between two things. I do think he's a solid football coach and at worst will do a solid job. Is that the A-plus hire that a defensive-minded coach needed to make to quell any fears that I have about whether or not his staff's going to be dynamic enough and whether or not the side of the ball that's not his is in elite hands? No.
All right, we're headed towards buy or sell, and we've got super chats lined up. So why don't we clean off a couple of these? First off, a nice basic background check. $199, Ketch, what's on the shelf behind you from Catch the Wave X?
They are, I tell you what, let me do what Chad does. Like, you know how you, let me grab one.
There you go. I was going to say, let's give it a little example.
Okay. So these are all Liverpool soccer cards.
Wow.
But
Everything we see is a Liverpool soccer card?
except you can see some frames of the family and kids.
Oh, okay. I got you.
And honestly, I think they're maroonish frames. If anybody ever wanted to really get mad about, that's the closest to frames that my family are in are close to maroon.
Oh my God.
Okay. But so here, I don't know if you can. So here is a Jurgen Klopp. He is the Liverpool manager. He's the guy that I wish was my dad or older brother. Like, I love this guy.
Okay.
The company, these cards aren't super popular in the US, but soccer card collecting is not like the most popular thing in the world. It's autographed on the back.
Nice.
This is the only licensed Liverpool Jurgen Klopp autograph card in existence.
Wow. So it's like the Arch Manning. There's only one.
Yes.
One card.
Yes. Let me put it to you like that. That would pay on in a market. I'd have to go to Asia probably to sell it. But yeah.
Okay.
I could go to like Tahiti with the kids and the family.
Damn. All right.
But they're almost everything behind me are one of ones. So they're the only cards of their kind in existence.
Yeah. Just for comparison's sake, if I sold the 2 or 3 of these helmets here, I could go to Hutto for the weekend, just to let y'all know.
Well, I picked like the one, like that one. If I showed that to Liverpool fans, the drool. It's one of my drool-worthy Liverpool cards.
Thank you, Catch the Wave, for the super chat. Let's go right to $20 because it is $20. $19.99. Jake, just wanted to say y'all help my job go by a lot faster every day. This show kicks ass. Double hook 'em emojis. Thank you, Jake. That's the best compliment we can always get, and it's my favorite compliment for all these years. I've gotten it a few times, so thank you for being the latest to get that. We appreciate it. We thank you for being a part of it. Like, subscribe, and get your notifications.
He sent that before Brian said he was horny for his wife.
That's true. That was
We were entertaining him before Brian even started to entertain.
Before Brian Jones in heat, after Brian Jones in heat, Jake's about all of it. That's the good news. That is the good news. All right. This is $4.99 from our man Oscar. Says, F yeah, BJ. I feel like everyone throws out the injury bug. We got hit by midseason, but I'm supposed to feel bad for Florida State. Those people can kick rocks. Oscar, we appreciate the super chat. Texas did go through a little bit when you talk about losing the starting quarterback for a few games and losing your starting running back for the entire season from a certain point. It is impressive, Catch, that team also goes on to fight through all of it, fight through close victories, keep winning, and then end up in the CFP on the backside. It's not bad.
If they had it to do all over again and you were Florida State, so let's say they had the almanac that Marty takes in Back to the Future. I know you've seen that.
Yes,
and he goes back and he knows if a Florida State fan had the almanac and saw that Florida State didn't make the playoff but finished undefeated, and it was because of this Jordan Travis injury, should Florida State have faked it and not disclose the severity of his injury? I know he got carried off on a stretcher to the hospital.
Right.
But if they'd come back and said, we think he can be back in time for the playoff game and the bowl game, and then just kept it quiet and kept him hidden, does Florida State make the playoff if they just lie?
I don't think there's any way they could have. There's no way it wouldn't have gotten out in some way. Something would have gotten out.
Would you have at least tried?
Maybe.
I mean, that's the thing. I think
it's because of the way it
all
looked.
over again and you were Florida State, you
Yeah.
do the Steve Sarkisian thing where you just say guys are week to week, and we hope to have him back for the bowl game, and it's questionable, but we have hope.
If you thought you could get him out on the field in uniform and have him warm up, knowing he was never going to play, maybe. But the way that injury looked and how bad it looked to start with, I just think all of us knew, every behind the scenes person, reporter, source, other teams, I think everybody just knew it right then. They knew it as they carted him off.
All right, I've got more questions on this, but we do have a guest coming up. We got to hustle.
We do. All right, real quick, just a quick comment because it was $199 from Just a Dude. Been waiting on a Necessary Roughness remake. All right, fair enough.
Fair enough. I don't know that I've been waiting on that, but I'd be down for that.
Oh, sure. No, I'd check that out. Absolutely. All right. It is after 1 o'clock. That means it is buy or sell time. Peter Burns is coming up from SEC Network at 1:20. We'll ask him if he thinks Texas and Bama are on another collision course. Ketch, you want to go first or second?
I see that Blake is that where you learned of the Basantis? Did Blake tell you?
I learned it off the chat. I'm not sure if it was our Blake or another Blake, or I saw it on the chat. So it may have been, yes.
I don't know what it was about me that wanted to break the news to you. Like,
I see. You wanted to go Portal Combat on me.
I did. I'm a little disappointed that you knew in advance. Look, I'll go first today on buy or sell. I turned my questions in early.
Okey-doke.
Buy or sell number 1. Texas should root for Michigan to beat Alabama because if Texas beats Washington and then Michigan in the championship game, they'll have beaten all 3 teams in the playoff to win the national championship.
Buy. Plus the matchup's better with Michigan to start with. You root for Michigan, and then at the end of the game, towards the end of the game, if Bama wins, then you just get kind of refired up and recalibrated to say, all right, now we got to go win and play them. But absolutely, you're rooting for Michigan.
I'm so glad that we talked about Collin Klein like 5 minutes ago and you didn't give me your thoughts, because I have a question, and had you just given me all your thoughts, it kind of would have rendered this question moot. So here we go. Buy or sell number 2. Collin Klein is a B hire and not an A hire as the Aggie OC.
I'd say that's probably fair. I'll have to say, I'd say buy, considering kind of the landscape right now. I understand they won a Big 12 title last year, but it's a B, maybe a B plus. There's not a lot of smoke to that hire for me. But I'm hearing the same reaction from everybody else that I heard on the Elko thing. Respect, and he's a good coach, but is it this? Is it flashy enough? Is it whatever enough? So it's probably not that. But that's probably a fair way to assess it right now.
Well, the good news is he won't be calling someone else's plays with their terminology. Whatever it is, it'll be Collin Klein's. True. Okay, this is a hot take. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Former Houston Texans quarterback David Carr says that Marcus Mariota would be a better starter for the Eagles at quarterback than Jalen Hurts. And that is the hottest take of 2023.
Wow. If by hottest you mean dumbest, then yes, buy. Absolute buy. If the heat is determined by the silliness of the thought, then yes. I have no idea that anybody, I don't think Mariota's family has the kind of evidence about that they could actually make that case. So well done, David Carr, for putting out something that crazy. No, I can't. Mariota wouldn't have thought of that 2 days ago. So buy.
And to be fair, I've now mentioned David Carr's name on the show for the first time ever. So I guess David Carr found the hot take that got him over. Well done, David Carr, because that's a hot take. Buy or sell number 4. Taylor Swift has been named Time Magazine's Person of the Year. Duh.
Man, buy. I mean, it took over my whole world the last year or so. And my daughter can't go through, 12 straight minutes without talking about it. My daughter talks more about Taylor Swift than our man Stu Myrick talks about pro wrestling. All right, it's not that much.
I was going to say, come on now, Chad.
Not that bad. Shout out to Suplex Stu. Hope you're doing well, brother. Let's buy. Taylor's been everywhere.
Plus, what I dig about Taylor is that she has the Swifties army. She tries to use it for what she thinks is like a good causes. Like she's awake and aware of things that go on in the world, and she's not just a singer, songwriter, performer. I like it.
She's cool, man. She's like musical. She's like a female musical Tim Tebow to me. That's kind of the people that hate her. They hate her for being her, but I think it's her. I think she's legit.
All right. I'd never heard that before, but that was pretty good. All right. And finally, buy or sell number 5. And Blake, if you were able to get this all in one little cryon code, good for you. I'm just going to read it to you. Okay.
Wow.
TheRinger.com named its top 5 shows on TV this year.
Okay.
Succession, Reservation Dogs, The Bear, Silo, and A Murder at the End of the World. And of the top 5 shows on TV this year, according to The Ringer, you only saw one.
That's a sell. I've seen none of those shows.
Wow.
I've never seen a second of any of those shows. Every time I see a preview for Succession, it looks good, but I've never watched it. The Bear stars the guy that was in Shameless, and I can't think of his name, but love
he's
him.
One of the stars of the Von Erich movie.
He is. He's going to be Kevin Von Erich. Carrie Von Erich, and I'll be there for that. And I love him, but I've never watched The Bear, and I haven't seen the others. Sorry.
Okay, so, boy, the things that I'm making you watch are piling up.
Yes.
Succession is a first ballot Hall of Fame TV show.
Okay.
And in the conversation for like best TV show of all time.
All right.
And yet, if I was going to have you watch anything tonight,
okay,
I would have you go tonight, season 1 of The Bear, and then tomorrow night, season 2 of The Bear. And I have no doubt in my mind, because they're each like 30-minute episodes. So it's not,
right.
We're not talking about like 10 hours of television.
Right.
I have no doubt in my mind that you'd watch them all in one setting because you wouldn't be able to stop. It is my favorite show of TV this year. I love The Bear. I can't endorse it enough. I want you to put all of the movies aside and watch The Bear.
Okay. Fair enough.
It's beautiful. Beautiful television. Okay.
Excellent. Now, will you yell at me if I don't watch it, like I heard Ellen DeGeneres started doing to people?
I mean, I'm just going to judge you.
Okay, fair enough. By the way, Dark Side of Comedy, Ellen DeGeneres this week, kids. That was something. That was a little eye-opener for old Blinky. Hadn't heard that story. All right, but we're halfway through Buy or Sell. We got Peter Burns coming up from SEC Network. Catch Buy or Sell, number 1, Texas will get Andrew Makuba and Juice Wells.
Buy. Yep. I'd put future casts or crystal balls or whatever you want to call them in for both of those guys. I think they'll add more than that, but I think they'll be the first 2.
All right. Buy or sell number 2. Catch, if I say to you Walter Nolan intends to enter the portal but is not in yet, you think I'm grasping at straws?
That's probably right. Buy.
Okay. Fair enough. I'm hearing Elijah Robinson has told him to wait, and he said he told him to chill out and meet Coach Spencer and, have the presentation and all of that. So
the thing is, like, entering your name into the portal is a formality. You can do all the things other than take visits. You can have all the conversations behind the scenes that you want to,
right?
And then enter the portal at a later date. So, it could be a mere formality. I think the big news, look, if there's a piece of good news for A&M right now, it would appear to be that Evan Stewart isn't going anywhere. So, of all the names that have been out there, he's one that seems to be content with staying put at this point. Although we'll see what his reaction is to a Collin Klein offense.
There you go. Maybe Evan and Walter can have a lunch, just have a talk. Just saying, maybe. All right, Catch Buy or Sell number 3. The NBA in-season tournament heads to Vegas tomorrow for the semis, and you can tell me both matchups.
Sell. I know the Lakers are in because they beat the Suns last night.
Mm-hmm.
And I almost turned that game on because it was going crazy on Twitter, but I just decided I'd rather go to bed. And I heard it was a great game, and I just didn't care enough. The Pacers are in the Final Four.
Yep.
Because I saw a tweet that had that in there.
It's true. Can he come up with the other two teams? The other two would be New Orleans to face the Lakers.
I should have known that because they beat somebody the other night.
Yep. And the Freak and the Bucks are the other team. Milwaukee is in and are a lot of people's favorites to win the thing.
I probably should have guessed that, but because they'd have been a top 5 guest team. But yeah, I didn't know that. I'm kind of happy that I knew 2 of the 4.
Yeah, 2 semifinals tomorrow, and then the final is Saturday night primetime. So as you're watching the Heisman switch back and forth, maybe 7:30 start. All right, Ketch.
You guys will rush the court if they win? I
don't know. I have no idea, but they seem to
treat winning the in-season tournament. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, they seem to care. I mean, they came up with a trophy, and every guy gets an extra $500,000. I know they are multimillionaires, but $500,000 if you win? They're treated like
my kids went to school today. It's book fair week. I asked my daughter, how much money do you need for the book fair?
Yeah.
She said $26.
Whoa.
And I was like,
very specific.
Okay, fair enough. I asked my son, who never reads a book, how much he needed for the book fair. Want to take a guess?
50.
$70.
What's my man looking at?
I don't know, but that got shut down.
That's funny.
And I love that my daughter was my Barney Fife in the background. I was like, why am I going to give you $70 for books? You wouldn't read them. And she was like, yeah, Hendrix, and you don't even read books. Like, thanks, daughter.
Thank you. Thanks for the help. All right, buy or sell number 4, Ketch. Today is Johnny Manziel's 31st birthday. JFF is one of the 10 best college quarterbacks you've seen.
First of all, 31.
31.
I might have guessed 25 if you'd asked. Like he's going to be one of those guys that's forever young, even when he's not young.
Right.
Top 10? Without thinking about... All right, let me think. Let me just think. Vince has got to be in the top 10. Joe Burrow's got to be in the top 10. Tommy Frazier's got to be in the top 10. I'm going to buy.
Okay.
But it's probably close if I sat down and wrote that one season. It kind of comes down to like what you value. He's got a couple of all-time performances, and he wins the Heisman, so he's in the conversation. But the resumes matter. Like Tommy Frazier's in my top 10, but I don't know. I don't even know that Tommy Frazier had performances like Johnny did because he was more of a run guy than a pass guy. I'm going to say buy, but I bet it would end up being pretty close, like I said, if I started writing names down on paper.
Gotcha. And finally, Ketch, buy or sell number 5, Collin Klein as A&M's OC, not near cool enough.
Probably a buy. It's not, is it cool enough or good enough? Has he done enough? Is he a name that is going to resonate here in the state of Texas to a 5-star receiver or a 5-star quarterback? You know, I explained it earlier. I think he's capable. I think it's solid. I thought A&M went into this needing to hire Kingsbury, right? It needed to be somebody like that made you go, holy shit, okay. Kingsbury. Even if you don't even think the name's good, it needed to have some sizzle, I've worked in the NFL and I've had these guys, and kind of what Petrino was supposed to be, but better.
All right, that's how we do buy or sell. We do it every day about 1 o'clock, and we got a couple super chats. We will get to those, but we are ready for our next guest. Another great football discussion coming with the one and only Peter Burns of SEC Network. Peter, how are you?
I'm doing well, boys. I don't know if my camera's working or not, so you tell me. Am I a good spot or bad spot for you guys?
You're good. I can't tell where you are. Like, is that?
All right, I'm going to give you.
Okay, now I got you.
I'm going to give you a little trim. I'm at the gym, so I went out there. I'm trying to get my Cliff Kingsbury look on right now. That's what I'm trying to do.
I couldn't tell if that was a wall or like a backdrop. Okay, I'm good. Peter, let's just start here. We got ourselves two pretty incredible looking playoff games. Now that we've had time to let the dust settle and all of the discussion about who should have been in or not be in, where's your head at today with the playoffs, who's in it, and where we go from here?
It's funny because as soon as many of these I do, Jeff, over the last, probably 72 hours, I have to be careful about the phrasing of the question, right? And so the phrasing of the question is, am I okay with like the Final Four? No, as a college football fan, I'm like, well, that stinks. You told FSU to go win your entire schedule. You told FSU to go play somebody tough, which was LSU, and they won that. They went undefeated, and now you're telling me an injury, they don't get a chance to play for an opportunity for a national championship. Like, as just a college football fan, that sucks. But if it's the question is phrased, am I okay with who the selections committee selected? And the answer is yes, because they use their protocol and their policies, which is, hey, we're going to take the best 4 teams, not the 4 most deserving teams. And if there is a major injury, we can hold that into account on how a team played, like Texas did whenever Quinn was not 100% and Malik came in. And the same thing about Jordan Travis and how FSU played without him.
Peter, if you know these people maybe better than anybody, that SEC crowd can get a little wacky because it just means,
come on, really?
because it just means more. If Alabama had been left out, how many Alabama fans would have tried to drive to Tallahassee and burn stuff?
It would have been, like it would have been like the January 6th of college football, like just people just, being highly upset about it. And that's the deal. Like we knew coming into this entire situation back in 2013, when they announced that they're going to be an expanded college football playoff to 4 teams, when you said that there were 5 Power 5 conferences and only 4 spots, you knew more than likely most years at least one team, if not multiple conferences, were going to get hosed. And it could have easily well have been Alabama, right? Like the easy thing for the committee guys, like the easy out for them would have been like, hey, listen, I know we're supposed to take the best 4 teams. I know FSU looked extremely limited, but man, they're undefeated. It's Power 5 conference. The chairman of the entire committee is a sitting ACC athletic director. Let's just make it easy. Let's put FSU. No one's going to complain against Alabama. And guess what? It'd be kind of nice if the SEC, who's won a bunch of these, is not in. And that would have been the easy route for them to take. So I actually applaud them for going the harder route and taking the hell that they've had to take.
As you look at the matchups, the way they're currently situated, do you have an impulse reaction as to what the championship game will look like? Who's going to come out of this thing? Or is one of these games you think so close that you don't instinctively have a favorite yet?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, it's Longhorns over Washington in a heartbeat. I got a chance to go down there at the Longhorn Network, work out there for the whole week, see them, get behind the scenes. And like everything I left the 40 acres feeling was like, this is a team that looks like every national championship team that I've seen from Georgia or Alabama or LSU. Like they looked the part, they act the part, the coaching is there, the facilities are there, the fan base is there, every part of it. And I think that we got caught up in the love affair for the Pac-12 because, A, there was a lot of good, interesting quarterback play. It was fun football. And almost like we felt bad for them as college football fans that the entire conference had kind of melted underneath them because of, of the Big Ten kind of poaching some of those teams. So to me, I don't think Washington is set up for the physical line play. And I know people said, oh, well, what about Oregon? Oregon couldn't hold a candle to how physical Texas can be, especially on that front 7. So I like Texas easily against Washington. A little bit more intriguing about Alabama and Michigan. But what I keep coming back and looking at, and I'll ask you guys this question. Name me the explosive offense that Michigan has faced this year.
Oh, God.
Can you? I mean, is it who? Ohio State? No.
I mean, Marvin
Iowa?
Harrison Jr. is like explosive. But
Well,
I don't know that I would say
player.
Ohio State is explosive on offense.
No, they're not explosive. Penn State was not explosive. Iowa damn sure wasn't explosive. So, I mean, I don't think if memory serves me correctly, and I got to go look at this, I don't think Michigan has faced a team in the top 40 in offense this season. And I think Michigan is built extremely well to beat Ohio State and built to win the Big Ten. I think they are. I think that they are built exactly how you have to be built to win in that conference. But I don't think that's how you win a national championship. I think you have to have multiple ways to score. I think Alabama can do this. Now, on the flip side, how many explosive offenses has Alabama played against this year? Okay. Texas being one. So they're battle tested there. They know that.
Mm-hmm.
LSU, they beat them.
Mm-hmm.
That might be the top offense in the country right now. Georgia was a top 5 offense. They beat them. Ole Miss, a top 10 offense. They beat them. Tennessee, a great offense. They beat them. So you need to tell me that, like, Alabama can stop really good offenses right now and score with the best of them. So if you look at that, I think Alabama is built, and we're looking at a rematch of what we saw in the Rose Bowl in 2009, Texas and Alabama.
Peter, it's an interesting comment you made about Texas having that look of a Bama or a Georgia. Clearly, I would think that's what every program is trying to get to. Clemson at times has been that in these last few years. Quick side question about my Aggies and the Elko Collin Klein idea. Because in my mind, they're kind of trying to slowly build the theory that Georgia and Bama have gotten to. Do you at least get the idea that they're trying to put together here in College Station with those two guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think what they're trying to do is what Mike Elko said, is that, hey, listen, we've talked the talk, but it's time to walk the walk. And how you walk the walk is play really good complementary football. That's what Georgia and Alabama do. But you also do it on the defensive side of the ball, right? I mean, like, Sumlin was so much fun, or Johnny Manziel was so much fun, right? Jimbo was supposed to be this offensive juggernaut. And none of those things, they're good when they're hitting, but when you're going to be consistent year in and year out, you got to be great defensively. Right. And Aggies were, but I just think that it was a good hire in Collin Klein. I mean, I think that he's had some success over at Kansas State. I know Penn State and Notre Dame tried to hire him away because they were enthralled with them, but it was going to take a great opportunity for him to leave and go to College Station. And I'll ask you guys and throw this back to you. Is there a position in college football, an offensive or defensive coordinator, that's better than being the OC at A&M? And the only reason why I bring that up is the bar is set pretty damn low over the last couple of years. You got Connor Wegman coming back, who's going to be healthy. You've got a bunch of talent on that staff right now. You got a 12-team playoff coming up. Like, and I don't think the expectations for a lot of people out there at A&M are like, oh, well, this is a team that should go 13-0 next year or 11-1. I think that you're lucking into one of the best positions in all of college football. No state income tax, and you get paid like basically a head coach in other conferences. That's a damn good job to have.
Well, and unlike a year ago, you don't have anybody there to micromanage you. So if you're Klein, like I was telling Chad this earlier, like it's going to be his show. It's not like Elko is going to be sitting in on the offensive meetings telling him what plays to call. And
it'll be like Lane. It'll be like Lane when he had DJ Durkin, and Lane when he had Pete Golden, which is like, listen, I'm in charge of one side of the football. You, whatever the hell you're going do over there, just make sure you do it well. And I think that's why another reason why that it's a hell of a hire.
And he's going to end up a head coach if this works out for him. Like, this has a chance to be an awesome platform if he can put up big numbers and be the kind of success that they hope he is.
Yeah, with what he did with Skylar Thompson, with what he did with Will Howard this year, and you hope that they hope that Wigman's that guy that Collin can get locked in. So, again, I mean, you talk about Oklahoma playing well, Texas playing well coming into this conference. I mean, they got to get this right. You cannot afford to get this wrong with these two powerhouses, especially what Sark is building in Austin. And if you do, buddy, you may not ever get back to equal playing field.
Peter, I wanted to go sidebar back to the original sidebar. I don't know if it's a sidebar to the sidebar or just back to the original sidebar.
I like being at the bar, so we're good for that, yeah.
I just wanted an example of what you told us from spending a week in Austin. Is there a go-to story that illustrates what you're talking about more than anything else?
Yeah, I just think it's the level of calm in the building. And there's like a quiet storm brewing. I remember any time that I would go visit Nick Saban in Tuscaloosa, you felt like it wasn't people rushing around. It was just this quiet, not cockiness, but confidence that people walked around with, like, yeah, we run stuff here, okay? And when I was in Austin, this was, mind you, the Kansas week. Now, this was Jalen Daniels was scheduled to play in that game. This was a Kansas team that was, I mean, legit. That they had a little wiggle to them. And I'm catching them, that Friday, and man, it was like I was catching them in March in the spring game. Everybody knew what they were doing. There was a smiles in the building, but there was this focus. And I've been to a lot of football facilities, guys, and I can tell you when a team is on the same page and when they're not, you just see it and you feel it in the building. And I know that's just more of an aura feeling. But damn if I don't get it when I go to Georgia, and damn if I haven't gotten it around Alabama when I'm down in Tuscaloosa. I mean, to me, that's one thing. And the other thing, too, is, when talking to, Fozzie Whitaker and Michael Griffin, those guys when did Longhorn Network, we're watching that game against Kansas and other games, and he's saying, look how many young guys are playing in the secondary, meaningful snaps. And he goes, that's start giving some of these young guys an opportunity because he knows somebody's going to get banged up at some point in the year, and we may have to trust these guys. I think that they've done that. Guys have stepped up, and that's the reason why, frankly, I think they got an opportunity to win the whole damn thing.
Peter, it sounds like you may be working your way towards a Texas-Bama rematch. Part
I'm already
3.
there. I'm already
You're already there. Okay.
I'm already lathered up for it.
It'll be that part 3 of the trilogy from the last year to this year. Do it on a neutral field this time. So tell me then, what are the keys for Texas getting by Washington? Why are you so confident Texas wins that matchup?
I'm confident because I don't know if I have seen or on the flip side of it, has Washington been challenged this way as far as the front seven? And I mean, I think that's the case, right? Like, even though Oregon was built as a front seven team and a line of scrimmage league or team this year, I don't think they really were. I think they're a year away from Dan Lanning get the guys that he really wants in there. This is almost kind of like watching Sark Squad last year, where they saw some flashes of it, but not quite yet. I think Sark has his guys there. And to me, as long as Quinn is 100% healthy, to me, I think he's probably the best quarterback in this field. I think he's better than J.J. McCarthy. I think when he plays complementary and can be right there with Michael Penix. And frankly, I think that he's right there with Jalen Milroe as well. So to me, I just don't think that Washington can handle the physicality of of that team.
Peter, it's funny. I've asked every guest this week. I feel like you just answered the question. If you're ranking the 4 quarterbacks, are you going – it sounded like you're going kind of maybe Ewers, Milroe, Penix, McCarthy, or is there a different order?
I'd probably go Quinn 1, probably Penix 2, and Milroe 3, and then McCarthy 4. I mean, you look at McCarthy's numbers, and they're non-existent. Now, mind you, that's because they didn't ask him to do it, but that's also – one of the reasons why is that they didn't feel like they could trust him. Like every single one of those other 3 quarterbacks, you can trust that could win you the game. And that's the X factor, really, of Washington. That I think lines of scrimmage-wise, Texas is going to be better. They're going to be able to push them around. But the X factor is if Michael Penix catches a heater, buddy, him and Odunze are that's a great 1-2 punch. I'm really kind of curious to see that matchup between, the secondary for the Longhorns and what Odunze and Penix can put together.
Peter, just going back to I guess Saturday, maybe it's Sunday, but Saturday for a lot of people. I can tell you the moment when I knew that it was going to be Texas and Bama. Did you have a moment specifically? Like for me, I saw 2 drives for each team in the ACC title game, and I knew it. So was there a moment for you where you went, oh, yeah, Bama's in and Texas is in?
Yeah, I mean, whenever Bama took that knee. I mean, actually, and I'll take it even further before that game because I knew – that I had picked Georgia all week long, guys. All week long, I'm like, this is Georgia. This is, Alabama. They're just not ready. And I remember walking onto the field at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. The Alabama's band is playing. The fans are going crazy. I see a couple of the guys come out of the tunnel, and there's Nick freaking Saban walking through. And I turned to all of my co-hosts, and I go, Bama's winning this game. It's just something about it. And it was that moment I started looking at it going, all right, they're going to win this game. And after they win this game, you're going to see an FSU team that more than likely in bad weather in Charlotte are going to play tight. Now, this, mind you, is when I thought Rodemaker was going to play. And then you end up having the 3rd-string quarterback at that point come in, and he looked lethargic. And at that point, I recognized that, hey, man, if you look that bad in the first half, the committee's all watching this, And the last impression doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have the best impression. Think about it with Bo Nix, right? Bo Nix was a favorite to win the Heisman. His last impression was them playing okay versus Washington. And now he's going to split votes with Michael Penix. And that's the reason why Jaden Daniels is going to win the damn Heisman coming up on Saturday night.
One of the last questions I wanted to ask you, besides what is today at the gym? Is it a weights day or is it elliptical? What are we doing today?
It's always beach muscles day. So it's always biceps, back muscles, anything that makes the t-shirt look good when I can wear the medium. Because I just realized I tried to do legs like one time in 1998, and I'm like, nope, that's okay, never going to happen. So it's like buys, tries, and goodbyes. That's what I call this workout today.
So I never have to ask that question again. Should he be at the gym? It's beach day at the gym.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to ask you a Heisman question without the quarterbacks. If we did a non-quarterback Heisman award ceremony, because we know who's there, is there a group of guys? Is there a defensive guy? Is it obviously Harrison Jr.? Like, the thing about him, I don't mean to influence your potential answer, but I loved Harrison Jr., but there were a couple of times this year where he had like a 20-yard game and you'd go, well, I can't really put him up there with the quarterbacks because a quarterback can't have a 20-yard game and still be on the list. How would we do it in a world where the quarterbacks don't get to vie for the award?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a quarterback award, which is interesting because you were talking about wide receivers. You're like, well, somebody's got to give them the damn ball. I mean, Malik Neighbors was every part of Marvin Harrison Jr., if not more. I mean, I saw that. So Malik Neighbors, the LSU wide receiver, would have been on that list. The running back, why is his name escaping me, from Oklahoma State?
Ollie Gordon.
Ollie Gordon had some big games as well. Of course, didn't have that opportunity to showcase that as well as he'd like to in the Big 12 championships. Those are probably the first names that come to mind. Because, Brock Bowers would have been that guy, but it wasn't healthy enough this season, right? I mean, like Brock, and I think that's one of the reasons why Brock and Ladd McConkey were less than 50% in the SEC championship game. And I think that was one of the real quick story that Saban talked about briefly, but went underneath the radar, was Saban watching Brock Bowers and watching Ladd McConkey in warmups and knowing after that first drive that they weren't 100%, even though Georgia scored on them. Nick Saban went to the rest of his staff and said, we're going to play 40. We're going to play, and we're going to change our personnel after they carved them up. And they made an adjustment knowing that Bowers and McConkey weren't 100%. And I was like, damn, that's the reason why he's the GOAT, man. Like, if you got a head coach at 72 years old, he's looking at one drive, and then he goes to his entire defensive staff and says, we're doing this, 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 and this, and it works. I mean, come on. I mean, he's the GOAT for a reason.
Man, that is an impressive story. And everybody's got one.
And I talked to Kevin Steele, like right before the game. I talked to Kevin Steele, the defensive coordinator for Alabama, and I said, "Hey, man, you enjoying this?" And he goes, "Listen, I've been out of coaching for a year or two. There's no other coach I would have ever taken the phone call for unless Saban." I go, "Well, how has it been this year?" And he goes, "Listen," he goes, "I was the first coach that Saban hired when he got to Alabama in 2007." And he goes, for 2 days, all we did was try to hire a staff, right? And Kevin Steele said the energy that he had in the 48 hours when he first took over at Alabama is the exact same energy he had over the last 48 hours. And he goes, that's 16 years down the road. That's after all these national championships. He burns just as bright on 2 days before an SEC championship game in 2023 than he did before he was building anything in Tuscaloosa. And I was like, I got goosebumps. I go, damn, this guy ain't going to retire until he's 97. He's still going to be one of these natties. It's going to be nuts.
Yeah, it's impressive. I'm good.
I got one more, Chad. Do you have one more?
I'm good. Go ahead.
I just wanted to ask, if it's a Texas-Alabama national championship, does the SEC network treat that like it's two SEC teams, or do we wait until Texas is officially in?
I would hope that we would. I would assume that we wouldn't. Because if that was the case, would we be down there in New Orleans, covering the Longhorns? But I would not be surprised if we always blow it out when there's an SEC team in the national championship. But if that ends up being a rematch of 2009, and think about this, like how about Saban, who could potentially avenge the loss to Texas, His first national championship at Alabama, of course, was the Longhorns. And what if he just retired after that game, after winning against Texas? I mean, 4th and 31, you lose to Texas. I mean, it's a script that's crazier than Hollywood would ever write. But if you were going to go out on proverbial top and mic drop, it'd be the ultimate mic drop moment in the history of college football.
You know what's interesting about that, Peter? Yeah. That's what Mac Brown had in mind in 2009.
And what happened?
When it didn't happen,
yeah,
he chased that moment the rest of his career and his life. Saban wouldn't do that, but it would be interesting. The parallels there are pretty crazy.
Maybe I'm just saying that as an LSU fan and hoping Nick Saban just calls it a day one day. But I will tell you this. You know who's happy that Nick Saban is there, even though he loses to him? Kirby Smart. Because I still think Kirby is the best coach or as far as the best program in college football right now. And no one hates on Kirby Smart because Nick Saban is still in the game. He's always continued to be in the shadows, despite back-to-back national championships, despite winning 29 games in a row. No one really talks about Georgia football the way they talk about Alabama because Nick Saban's still alive, kicking and kicking ass.
Yeah, still gives Kirby that edge. He still uses that. You know he does.
You got it.
Peter, we always appreciate the time, man. Go get that work in. Make sure you get every rep. Make every rep count. Focus on your breathing because we need you at optimal level because we got SEC present and SEC future in these playoffs. Let's go.
I'm ready, baby. I'm gonna go start doing some bath salts, some Four Loko, some catnip. I'm gonna get the C4. Just gonna raw dog it in the gym. It'll be perfect. See you, boys.
Later, man. Peter Burns, SEC Network. Thank you to Peter for squeezing us in between buys and tries.
It's so great now after all those years of radio, Ketch, where you're interviewing people and they're in weird situations. We would only hear it. Now we get to see it. Like Brian Jones in the bowels of CBS was great. We just had Peter Burns at the gym. That was awesome. Like back in the day, we've had people like in the grocery store line. Like you'd hear the boom, boom, boom of items at the grocery store during interviews. Now we could actually see one of those happen. So thanks to Peter Burns, buys, tries, and goodbyes. I have not heard that one as a workout. So well done, Peter Burns. Well done. And we are up over 500 folks in the Specs chat. We've got some super chats that are lined up as well. And more bad news for my Aggies while we were talking to Peter Burns came in on the chat. So we got a lot of stuff. Ketch, before we get to the additional bad news, why don't you give the folks the good news on My Perfect Franchise, because they may have a dream in mind and you've got a guy that can help them.
I feel like we're burying the lead here. There's more A&M bad news. Okay, we'll get to that. This time you can tell me because I don't know what it is. So whereas before I knew what it was and desperately boy, that's mean. I don't know why the little bastard in me wanted to come out and break the bad A&M news to you. But My Perfect Franchise, let's talk about that for a second. We're almost at a new year. You're going to be doing your New Year's resolutions. And one of them might be, I want to live the dream. I want to do that thing I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to be my own man. I've always wanted to be my own woman. I've always wanted to run my own business. And I've been thinking about it since I was a kid, and I just don't know what steps to take first. How do you do it? Well, that's what myperfectfranchise.net does. They help you answer all of those questions. They won't just ride shotgun with you. They'll go hand in hand with you to help you get set up so that you can live the dream, so that you can be the man, so that you can, for the first time in your life, potentially do the thing that you've always wanted to do your entire life. What better Christmas present could you give to yourself than to do the thing that you've always wanted to do your entire life? Call him up. The number's right there on the screen. You can also email him, Andy at myperfectfranchise.net. We've had roaring testimonials from people who've nervously called Andy and reached out to Andy and said, I don't know, but can you help me? Yes. The answer to that is yes. Don't hesitate. There's no moment like now to get the dream started. Reach out to Andy and let him help you live the dream.
All right, Ketch. Now, apparently, this is how fast it moves. Now, the bad news for me actually turns into pretty good news for me. And Colby gives us the last update. Bryce Anderson posts on Instagram that his Twitter had been hacked. He's not in the portal. While we were talking to Peter Burns, I saw a message pop up that Bryce Anderson was in the portal. Now, apparently, Bryce Anderson is having to battle that idea and says he is not in the portal. That would be Aggie cornerback Bryce Anderson, if you don't know that name. So, Colby, thank you for clarifying. There it is. I haven't had a whole lot of good news as an Aggie fan these last couple of days, Ketch, but there's at least a little sliver of good news. So I apologize.
That's not even good news. That's like, hey, Chernobyl. It's like Chernobyl occurring and then saying, well, it wasn't a total meltdown.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's not as
everybody in Russia died.
Yeah, the car crashed, but it didn't go over the cliff. Like, okay, fair enough. All right, so let's clean up some super chats here as we get closer to 2:00. We got $4.99 here, also an Aggie reference from Texas TV. Hey, fellas, good afternoon. Buy or sell? Texas out-recruits A&M for the next 3 years due to the success that Texas is having this year. Is that how it computes to you?
Buy only because Elko, I mean, Sarkisian arrives at Texas as a bona fide sure thing recruiter because we'd seen what he'd done at USC. Jimbo showed up in College Station, and while he didn't even really recruit the state of Texas incredibly well early on, he's such a famous recruiter. And we've seen as these guys enter the portal, Jimbo had them coming in from everywhere. I don't know that Elko's that. So I think Sarkisian is one of the nation's truly elite recruiting head coaches. They've got this success. Elko has to prove that a little bit. I mean, he's done a good job as a recruiter, as an assistant. It's a little bit of a different deal, but he does get the honeymoon, and A&M usually does really well on a honeymoon year. So I'm going to say buy, but, you know, it's not as cut and dry, I think, as the question would have me give an answer.
Thank you, Texas TV, for that. $5 super chat on this one. Buy or sell 2023 Horns better than 05 Invincible Horns.
Oh,
now
God,
Texas.
no.
Now Ryan's getting into the feelings.
No. No.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, the 2005 team is arguably one of the best teams, not even arguably, it is one of the best college football teams of all time. It's arguably the best college football team of all time. I mean, you've got 2001 Miami, you've got that LSU team in 2019, you've got some people would even throw in that USC team in 2004, Nebraska, 95, not whichever one was the best of the Nebraska Tommy Frazier teams. There's a host of teams. This Texas team might win it all, and nobody's ever going to say, you know, them against the 2001 Hurricanes. It's never going to happen. So one team's on just a different level, no matter what the outcome is the rest of the way.
Yeah, Ryan, I would agree with that. Thank you for the super chat. We appreciate it. Here's another one coming in recruiting-wise or portal-wise. $4.99, still from Texas TV. Thank you. All SEC D-tackle Princely Human-Meelan just hit the portal. He's a Texas native, visited Texas during recruiting. Does he become a priority in the portal? We talked about Human-Meelan earlier, so Ketch, let's reiterate here. This is the stud guy out of Florida that went to he's from Manor. We talked about him earlier. Would you put the word priority on it right now for Texas?
No, although that could be wrong. I mean, I think they're going to have a serious interest, but I think everybody will. And he's not just a Texas native. He's an Austin area native. I mean, again, you're talking about a guy from Manor High School. He looked at the Longhorns. He looked at the Sooners. I don't know what he's looking for. And I have a feeling we'll probably have updates, whether it be in Rivals or some other network, or maybe we can get a hold of him, obviously, at Orange Blood. Sukumel's probably putting in a phone call now. Like, what's the genesis behind this move? Because he seems like he was already on the fast track to eventually being a guy that, you know, is – you know, if he goes NFL now, he's probably a top 4 rounds guy. So he's not Walter Nolan, where everybody assumes that in a year from now, he's in the top half of the 2025 NFL draft. But he's second team all SEC at a position, the size that he brings to the table. He's gonna be a guy that Georgia, Alabama, the biggest of the big dogs are on. And I don't know personally why he's transferring. What does he want? Does he want a payday? Does he want to play for a national championship? And thus, there's a handful of schools only that he'll look at. Does he want to be closer to home? Like, is A&M potentially a school, considering he took an official visit to the Aggies? Like, I don't know, but will he be a priority? Maybe. Like, he fits the profile of a guy that would be a priority. We know that the Longhorns are looking along the defensive line. So, the thing is, I think there was also going to be some interest in Trey Moore, the defensive end edge player from UTSA that went into the portal yesterday. 14 sacks, best in the country, 17 and a half tackles for loss, 16th or 4th in the country, or top 10 in the country in tackles for loss. I can't remember if it was 4th or 6th. They can't all be number 1 priorities. So, Texas will have to juggle interest levels in guys, but that guy's going to have everybody want. He will take a phone call from Georgia, Alabama. I think those are obvious ones. You always look back at the schools that a guy looked at before he made a decision. Texas wasn't, Texas A&M and Oklahoma and Florida felt like the big 4. So, I think it wouldn't be a shock if you see those schools under serious consideration as well. Thing is, he's played in the SEC. He's played in the swamp. Guys usually go into the portal to level up. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Trey Moore from UTSA is going into the portal. My guess is he wants to play Power 5 football. If you've played Power 5, what's leveling up if you were at Florida? Is it as simple as Georgia, Alabama, Texas, LSU, something like that? I mean, Florida's is down, but it's still Florida.
Yeah, I agree. No, that's a great question of kind of what is he looking for ultimately? Is it about, being closer to home, or is it more about the football side? Texas TV, thank you for that super chat. Here's an interesting one for $9.99. James, buy or sell if OB were office personas. Chad is Michael, the funny one. Ketch is Dwight, knows everything. Anwar is Jim, the coolest. Jason is Angela, the downer. And Alex is Kevin, sports betting and quirky. Ketch, buy or sell?
Well, sell, because I think I'm probably more Michael than I might call myself Michael, because if it's Orange Bloods, like, I'm also the boss. I mean, I just am. So, like, I feel managerial, and I sometimes can be a little Michael Scott-ish, and I don't think of Michael as just funny.
Yeah.
I think sometimes I think of Michael as on planet Mars, and I think I'm more of that than Chad is. Like, Chad's funny, but he's not funny like Michael Scott is funny. I would actually call Chad Jim. I think Anwar is
Stanley?
Yes. He's the most Stanley son of a bitch in the Orange Bloods personnel groupings by a mile. Jason feels like Creed, although Alex could also be Creed. Maybe Alex. Actually, Alex is Creed. Jason is. Angela might have to do. I can see Angela. I can see. Jason's like a mutation of all of the rest. No, that's who Jason is. You guys have no idea. Jason
Todd
is
Packer?
Todd Packer.
Jason is Todd Packer. That's great.
Look, Todd Packer wouldn't have been a little bitch shotgunning that beer. If we're going to go to the shotgunning beer, Chad's a little uppity to be Todd Packer.
Wow.
I think.
How about that?
I think you're uppity in a Jim kind of way. Snarky, smart ass, absolutely.
Man, that was good. That felt like a compliment right up until I got called a little bitch. All right.
You took like an hour and a half to shotgun a beer.
Yeah, that's true. It did happen. I didn't say it wasn't deserved. I just said it was a compliment right up until that point.
It's the only thing that I would ever say I think you've been a little bitch about. Like,
Jared.
You struggled with the shot. And look, I'm not saying I could have done better. Because Michael Scott probably wouldn't do better.
No, you would have done way better than I did. You would have done way better. The only good news of that shotgun is that I didn't spray beer on my computer and short it out and cut myself off. That's been the only way it could have been worse. $4.99 from Jarrett. If you had the choice and could only pick one, would you rather go to the Sugar Bowl or roll the dice and hope Texas makes the Natty?
I don't understand the question.
He's asking if you could only go to the semifinal or the championship game, assuming they make it, and you could only make the plans for one game. What do you do?
It's Natty all day long.
Jared, that's what I would do if I was a Texas fan. And I've never really been the kind of, I've never been a fan that goes to a ton of bowl games. Y'all can just insert your Aggie jokes there. But I would go with, for a lot of reasons, I would go with the Natty. Especially if you live in the state of Texas and Houston is not that crazy a trip for you, I would focus all my energy there. And if they get there, that's where you go.
Can I give you a compliment? Can I make you feel good for once?
Sure.
I was thinking, I asked you the question yesterday. It might have been a couple of days ago, but it was has A&M ever been so close that, a scenario here or there on a bowl game would have them in the national championship discussion? And you said no, but you referenced, was it the 88 Cotton Bowl? They beat the hell out of it might have been 87.
88 Cotton Bowl would be the 87 season was when they beat Notre Dame. The 85 seasons when they beat Bo Jackson.
I was going to say, I don't remember the Bo Jackson season. That's right about,
okay.
Like all I cared about was Dallas Cowboys and Baylor at that point.
Right.
But I remember the A&M Notre Dame Cotton Bowl very well.
Mm-hmm.
And that A&M team was so good that me and my friend Eric used to play one-on-one football in the field in this apartment complex that I lived in. And he was always Notre Dame and Tim Brown. And guess who was Kevin Murray and the Aggies?
And you were always the Aggies, and you just took his towel you beat him and take his towel.
I beat him down like the Aggies beat down the Irish in that bowl game.
That was impressive. I think 35-10 was the final of that one. Interesting you bring that up, Ketch, because coming up in the crap bag, we'll talk a little bit about the playoff and what it could have looked like back in the day. I focused in on 1990, but I also looked up for both sides of House Divided. In my lifetime, how many teams would have been involved in a playoff on each side? We'll take a look at that coming up.
You've done some nerdy homework.
At 2:00. Oh, I've done a little nerdy homework today. Absolutely, because this weird epiphany hit me the other day to go look at those past games. We also have one more super chat. Let's grab this real quick. Remember, we also have Max Olsen of The Athletic coming up at 2:20. He's going for the corner, $4.99. Cotton Bowl getting a $140 million renovation. Buy or sell on a home and home during the renovation. Wow, this is interesting, Ketch. If they were going to move Texas OU out of the Cotton Bowl during a renovation, would you prefer a Jerry World? Would you prefer another neutral? Or would you prefer a home and home? Buy or
Jerry
sell?
World.
Okay, so you'd sell and go Jerry World.
Yeah.
Okay. Going for the corner, honestly, I'll tell you that I'm trying to imagine it for a second in Jerry World. I mean, I'd rather have it as the neutral. So I think I'm going to have to sell and say Jerry World or somewhere else. But if it was temporary, I mean, the cocktail party did it. That when Jacksonville was messing around, they did a home and home. People may not realize it, but in the 90s, they actually did that for a couple of years while they were refurbishing. So extreme version, yes, I'd rather still have it at a neutral. Thank you.
The game should always be 50-50.
I agree. I love it that way.
I just want to add real quick, they also extended the contract for Texas OU to be at the Cotton Bowl through 2036.
Don't
Is that a long time?
2036. It's 5 years past when the Aggies have to pay Jimbo. Not that I remember that number.
It is a long time.
It is a long time. Yeah, it's a long time. And wait, you say 2036? Because if I'm not mistaken, Ketch, here's how long that is. I think that's 5 years past when the Aggies have to pay Jimbo, and I think it's 1 year after Bobby Bonilla ends. I think Bonilla gets paid till 2035. I believe that's true.
God love him.
Oh my God. 1.19 million every July 1st. Imagine if that was your life. That's Bobby Bonilla's life, and it has been for a while.
It feels like that contract makes him greater than Barry Bonds. You know, they were both young guys at the same time. I can remember having both Barry Bonds and Bobby Bonilla rookie cards. But now, all these years later, I think you got to say Bonilla because of the contract.
It's impressive. That's a good argument. I agree. I think you may be right. I think you may be absolutely right. Thanks to all those super chats for coming in. We will take those super chats. Thank you to over 500 folks in the Specs chat. We give Specs their love for being a great partner around here. Another one of our great partners, Sinus and Snoring Specialists. Let me tell you about them one more time as we roll through today. This is the place that can help you sleep better and feel better. Give a gift of health to yourself this holiday. You're always thinking about everybody else. What about you? How are you sleeping? Are you snoring? Do you think you have bad allergies? Or your whole life you've had those allergies that mess with people. They can get rid of them for good. They did that for me back in 2017, and I have been sleeping so much better and feeling so much better ever since. And I've been talking about what my wife's going through right now with the CPAP machine. She loves it. She's getting great results with it. She wouldn't sleep without it. She's not needing all those naps that she used to have to take on weekends to be catching up with everything. She's got a job that gets her up early in the morning, and she's able to do that now and feels refreshed when she wakes up because of Sinus and Snoring Specialists. There's your QR code. Check them out. You can call them at 512-601-0303. SinusSnoringENT.com is that website, and they'll be glad to help you out. They help me, and a lot of you have already gone to Dr. Slaughter and met him and figured out what they're about. We do appreciate you mentioning Orange Bloods Live. Sinus and Snoring Specialists. Feel clear, rested, and healthy. All right. Now, here's a name I don't know, Ketch, so pardon me for not knowing, but this just popped up in a chat. Who's B.J. Allen?
He is a defensive back for the Longhorns.
Oh, okay. I just didn't recognize the name. Is that
okay? If
he is in the portal, big deal? No big deal? Kind of?
mean, no, not really.
Okay.
I mean, no.
All right. Just checking. Just wanted to check.
He's not too different than Xavier Bryce, where we're talking about a guy that certainly has some talent, but he's a guy that you wouldn't say is knocking down the door for playing time right now. And I think he's a guy that you would probably expect at some point was going to hit the portal.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Keep those chats rolling in. We'll take those super chats also. And another great college football discussion coming up. We already had one with Brian Jones. Go back and check it out. We already had one with Peter Burns. Go back and check it out. He was at the gym about to work out. And coming up, Max Olsen of The Athletic at 2:20. We talked to Max throughout the season a couple times about transfer portal guys anyway. So talking to him right now after the portal opens, we'll get some interesting thoughts there. Plus, he follows Texas very closely. We'll get his thoughts on the CFP and all that other good stuff. That's coming up at 2:20. Today,
that might be our first more portal than football discussion.
Yeah.
And can I make one quick observation?
Yeah, sure.
because we've had a bunch of national guys on. The love and street respect that Quinn Ewers has right now is more than I would have expected.
I was a little surprised too. Peter Burns' order of the quarterbacks would be mine, because when you asked me, I thought the two best quarterbacks are in the Sugar Bowl. And then I'd go Milroe, and then I'd go McCarthy. He's the first one that put it exactly like I would. But you're right. Ewers getting the love.
Nobody is having Ewers below 2 that I can remember so far every time I've asked that question.
I think that's true as well. Yeah.
And one of those guys is in the Heisman ceremony. The other guy was just the best player on the field in the Alabama-Georgia game.
Mm-hmm.
And, McCarthy's a guy that some people think is going to end up being a first-round quarterback when it's all said and done, if not this year, next year. So he'd be one of the guys in the 2025 draft potentially. But a lot of people, his numbers don't dazzle, but there's no question that he's an incredible talent.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. A lot of great guests this week. And in fact, Ketch, I'm going to blame, if not credit, one of our guests for making me think of what I did that led me to the crap bag. Yesterday, when we had Matt Berry on from ESPN, he said something that I completely disagree with. And I thought, I'm going to go dig through that and come up with an example to prove why he's wrong. And it's not Matt's fault. It's just stuff that people say when they do things like, coming up, Michigan and Ohio State, the game, it's just going to turn into a game. And I always think, well, no, it's not. It's still going to be the rivalry that it is. Plus, there'll be playoff importance on it. So what I decided to do was go grab a game in the House Divided from back in the day that was a really good game. And how important would it have been if we had a playoff? Is it less important? Actually, no, it's more important. And where I went to, 1990. Since Brian Jones joined us today, I went to the Shock the Nation Longhorns. When they played A&M in Austin at the end of the year, Texas was 4 in the country. The Aggies were 17th. So what does that mean? It means Texas would have been playing to stay in the top 4 and have a bye. The Aggies would have been playing to get into a playoff. You're telling me the game wouldn't mean a little more at that point? I would argue it would. Texas won the game 28-27. The TV might have caught RC sending the play in, so Texas knew what it was. That whole thing was a crazy good game. Texas wins, and here's what the playoff would have looked like with a 12 team. Aggies are out because of it, and Texas would have gone to, the 3 seed in 1990. Texas, Georgia Tech on one side, Colorado and Miami, the team Texas, of course, played in the Cotton Bowl, would have ended up on the other side. Now, Ketch, for the 12 purposes, I'll give you a choice. Michigan was the 12 seed. Louisville was the highest ranked non-power team I saw. By the way, Louisville beat Bama 34-7 in a bowl game that year. So Louisville was ready to play. So take either one of those, send them to South Bend. Check out those Houston Cougars as the 9 seed. They would have gone to Washington. Florida State, if you want a rematch, cool. Otherwise, do what Ketch is suggesting and flip your 10 and 11. Send Tennessee to Florida State if you need to. Send Florida to Penn State if that's what you want. But this is what it would have looked like in 1990. The Shock the Nation Longhorns would have gotten a bye, Ketch, and would have theoretically been waiting for the Noles or the Gators for a quarterfinal.
Well, maybe somebody else could have not dealt with Miami since they would have been on the other side of the bracket.
Yeah. Well, because that game, the 3 versus 4, it ultimately meant nothing. Nothing was determined in the Cotton Bowl other than Miami was way better than Texas that day. But let me give you the extra stupidity of 1990, Ketch. You and I both know it ended up as a split national title. For you kids that don't, as you look at this, number 1, Colorado, and number 2, Georgia Tech, both won their bowl games. So they split a national title. But here's the detail that I always forget, Ketch, which adds extra stupidity. Colorado was already in the Orange Bowl, and Georgia Tech had won the ACC and could have easily been chosen for the Orange Bowl. But the dumbasses in the bright orange jackets decided that Notre Dame's fans would travel better, so they picked the number 5 team at the time, stuck them into that one, and by the way, the final was 10-9, Colorado over Notre Dame. Georgia Tech was matched up with Nebraska in the Citrus Bowl and whipped them 45-21. So they could have put the two best teams together, but they didn't do it. Because that's what bowl season was like back then, kids. It didn't really matter. So for all of you that want to pretend like the rivalry games would get less, I'll argue they'd get more. And if all of you are telling me in 1990 you don't want to see Florida play Florida State and then turn right around and have to play them again, I think you're high. I think you're crazy. It pissed us off in 96 when they had to play two games and then one had won the other. That pissed us off a little bit. But if it was in a real system, oh my God, bring it on. It would have been awesome to see. Florida and Florida State had already met that year in 90. Florida State beat them close. And then it would have reseeded them, but they could have been in a rematch. By the way, Michigan beat Ohio State that year by 3, 16-13. To stay in the back end of playoff discussion. It's going to mean so much more. And I'm not just talking SEC. You're going to love it. Just wait. It's going to be so great. 1990. But here's
I have a question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
That 91 Orange Bowl.
Yeah.
The one between Notre Dame and Colorado.
Yes.
Do you remember the other thing that bowl game is remembered for, and 32 years later is still the first thing that I think of?
Something to do with McCarthy? I don't know.
No. Would that also have been the Sal Anesi year? I think so.
I'm not sure. No, no.
That was the bowl game where Notre Dame's Chris Zorich was like an animal in the game.
Oh, okay.
And if I'm not mistaken, they did a TV piece like at halftime between him and like his mom raised him. And like, I want to say he's from Chicago or something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, after the game, his mom died of a heart attack right after the game was over. So that's the thing I always remember from that game was that Chris Zorich lost his mom the night that he played in that bowl game.
Weird. I'd forgotten that element. I remember Zorich. He was a badass at Notre Dame, but I'd forgotten that angle to it.
I think he found her on the floor.
Oh God.
You know, like
That's
she's
terrible.
like 60 or something like that. And yeah, horrible, horrible stuff. But all these years later, that's one of those things like just never has left my brain. And he wasn't like a great NFL player either, but he was like an all-time great college player.
Yeah, played for the Bears in the NFL, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So the last little bit of house divided stuff I looked at, Ketch, in my lifetime, I found 18 Texas Longhorn teams that would have been a part of a playoff. 18. Just think about that. From 1975.
In a 12-team playoff.
Correct. Through this year, I found 8. All I did was go to the final rankings, and if you were 12 or higher, I just figured you're in the discussion. We could go to the detail of would you be left out by a group of 5 and all that. But from 1975 to 2023, so it includes this year, 18 Texas teams would have been involved in a playoff discussion, and 11 A&M teams would have been involved in a playoff discussion. And to your question, Ketch, about those mid-'80s Aggies teams, the team that beat Bo Jackson finished 6th. The team that beat Tim Brown finished 9th. So both of those teams.
Really?
Yeah, both of those teams would have been in discussions for
what's the highest ranking? Is it the 85 team?
The highest ranking the highest rankings since I've been alive are the last two, 2012 and 2020. They finished 5th. Yep, finished 5th the Manziel's year and finished 4th in 2020.
I don't know. I don't know. Those Aggie teams under Sherrill and the early ones under Slocum, I just always assumed that there were a couple of top 5s in there.
There were not, 91, 12, 92, they finished 7th, 93, they finished 8th. I did not include 94 since they were ineligible.
But what were they in? Weren't they undefeated? Like in the Southwest Conference anyway.
I think so, yeah. Undefeated in conference. I didn't include that one because I figured that'd be a bridge too far for the discussion. So I just left it at 11.
Who would have ever thought that I would overrate A&M teams?
How about that? See, you never know. You just never.
Hey, Aggies that are out there.
See?
I'm constantly showing you guys more love than you can ever imagine and appreciate.
Look at that. And speaking of Aggies, a weird confluence of a birthday and a Heisman today. Johnny Manziel turns 31. We're almost to the anniversary of him winning the Heisman. And today it becomes known that the guy he beat for the Heisman, Collin, Klein, is about to be the new OC at A&M under Mike Elko. So just a whole lot of, life is a rich tapestry going on right now for the Aggies. Happy birthday to Johnny. He got to 31, kids. Some of y'all didn't have 31 on the Johnny Manziel will he get there bingo card. Because Johnny Manziel,
Catch, morbid thing to say.
No, I'm just saying Johnny Manziel had a little Charlie Sheen to him for a little time where you're thinking, okay, Johnny, if you don't learn how to at least balance some of this out, like, dude, are you going to just, party yourself too far? But so far he's been able to hold it together. I hope he's doing well. The documentary was good. Wasn't great. Wasn't long enough. Wasn't thorough enough. I wish they had done a better job. I want to see the director's cut, but happy birthday to Johnny, and 31 years old today.
Would have liked seen some questions asked of the old man. Just a couple relevant questions may be asked. And Ketch, if you give me, all time, like an A&M team that I want to see in a playoff in a real system, it's one of those teams in the 80s, and it's Johnny's team. Those are the two that I would just love to see. One on the defensive side of the ball, and then one from just a complete attack standpoint. I just think they would have each been a team that you didn't want to mess with. And all fan bases can go back and look at those teams that they would have had in the, in a real system through the years. So there you go, Longhorn fans. 1990, you would have been a 3 seed in a real system. Wouldn't that have been fun? A little bit. You should have told Brian that.
I should have, but then he would have thought I was just bringing up Miami, and I didn't want.
Because you could have told him, like, hey, in a playoff, you guys would have not seen Miami until the championship game.
Yeah, that's true. But next time we have him on, let me remind him of that, and we'll, I'll lay all that out for him.
Do you know what I'm going to ask him about someday while we're waiting for Max Olsen to join us? And by the way, I sent Max the link. My guess is he'll be here in like the next minute and a half. Like, he was right on point. I think he's ready to go. Okay. I want to ask him about the Stan Thomas thing. Because do you know what I'm talking about?
The Stan Thomas.
Stan Thomas was the All-America Texas offensive lineman. Ended up being a first-round draft pick, also of the Chicago Bears, speaking of Chris Zorich and those early 90s Bears teams. He's the one that triggered the Miami players by saying that they all look like a bunch of dudes from Huntsville.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah, that's when he's he's the one that lit the fire.
He's the one that ran his mouth.
Yeah, don't do that.
And I've always wondered, even now, how do Texas players, he's on the short list of guys that I wonder how his former teammates think of him. Because Stan Thomas had a reputation of kind of having a big mouth, but Brian kind of has a bit of a big mouth. But sure, Brian's beloved. Like, people love Brian. When he comes back, like, he's like the life of the party, of any Longhorn party. Stan Thomas was like the offensive version of Brian Jones on that team.
Yeah.
And yet I haven't heard of him at a Texas function, or when was the last time somebody brought up, hey, Stan Thomas is going to be on the show? Like, it just never happens.
That's interesting. Well, and obviously there's a difference between running your mouth and what you are running your mouth about. And Brian's the one that always says, don't taunt the alligator till you get across the river. That would have been the ultimate example of it.
I think he made that up after. Yeah. That's probably his first experience of, you know what? I need an expression.
Yeah. I got to have something to explain this for the rest of my life.
So whenever we have Brian on for the last time, so sometime between now and the last time this year, you got to remind me, because I've been wanting to ask it all year, and I don't want to get to our last conversation of the year and forget to ask him about Stan Thomas.
All right, we'll go Stan Thomas with Brian Jones at some point. We'll make sure we do that. And as Ketch said, we're waiting on Max Olsen from The Athletic. By the way, real quick, while we're waiting on Max, this was sent in earlier from our guy Sandman. You know he loves a good wordplay, Ketch. Would you like to sing this one for Sandman, Makuba Matata, it means no worries for the rest of the Longhorn days.
I wonder how many times he's heard that in his life.
Oh, man. I'm guessing a little bit.
I'm
guessing a few times.
Well, because my last name is Ketchum, but my entire life, kids when I was a kid would see my name and just call me Ketchup.
Sure.
So I'm assuming that a guy whose last name is Makuba has had a few Makuba Matatas.
Yeah. The kids will lean into Makuba Matata.
And I bet they think it's the first time he's ever heard it.
Yeah, exactly.
Every time. Hey, has anybody ever told you a Makuba? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's probably happened before. Probably happened. Thank you, Sandman, so much. We appreciate all those good dad jokes, all the wordplay. We got super chat that just jumped in. We will get to that. Somebody going back in time trying to decide which Texas teams are better. We'll get to that discussion, but also we want to get to our next guest and have another good college football conversation, CFP, portal, and otherwise. He is Max Olsen of The Athletic. Check out all the great work. And, oh, look at this. He's joining us from a laser light show, Pink Floyd style.
Guys, I am in the portal. We're here.
Oh, wow. Well done.
Coming to you live from the portal.
That is exciting.
Now I want to be in the portal.
All right, I gotta ask you something. We gotta talk about something before we get into this, okay?
Okay.
Ketch, what the hell, man?
What
the hell? I said I could do Wednesday, and then you just messaged me like 10 minutes ago. You're like, all right, you're up at 2:20. What is this? What is this? My wife, she often is saying like, oh, someone put a meeting on my calendar, and she has to go do this. You did the same. What is this?
Wait, are you saying that he clarified the day but not the time?
I was given no time, but here I am in the middle of portaling.
Well, you know what's funny? That explains the laughing emoji. Because
I said I could probably do Wednesday, and you messaged me at 2:00 and said, "See you at 2:20."
I said, "Here's the link for 2:20. Thanks in advance." And he put a crying, laughing emoji, and I didn't understand it. I was like, "Huh."
Here we are. Damn.
Well, Max, thank you for being a better human being than I am.
No, you're all good. I'm always happy to join you guys. How we doing?
Well, so where are you?
I'm portaling. It's a mystical place.
He's in the portal. You know what? I think before we do anything else, Blake, the super producer, can we show Max the Portal Combat intro? Because I think now he's going to appreciate it. Here you go, Max. Here's what we've been doing. Come on now.
Round one, fight!
Yeah, so that was just for you. We don't do that for every guest. Yeah,
I like that. No, my kid's got. I got a 2-year-old. He's got this little light machine for bath time that he is a big fan of. That got all this trippy stuff going on. So I can keep it going, or I can turn it off. It's up to you guys.
No, keep it going by all means.
Yeah.
All right.
Definitely.
Never do another interview ever without this light machine.
If we're talking portal, I'm going in.
In fact, you should do half an interview, do the regular parts without it, and then if you have a portal thing to discuss, then you just crank it on. That's what you do.
Yes, right. Let's flip the lights off. Let's go right into that portal. Yeah. Here we go.
Well, Max, let's start with the portal. I think when I invited you on Sunday, I wasn't really thinking portal. I was thinking we got playoff matchups. The Longhorns are in it. They're kind of sexy. There's been some controversy. But now it's Wednesday, and the playoffs, we'll get to that, but it feels like old news. Chad reminded us earlier, it's like, we've had Max on and talked portal in the past. And I was like, that's right. Max is involved in a lot of portal stuff, the rankings and everything else. So let's start with the portal because it is on fire. Where's your head at with the portal? What of all the things happening, the thing that has your attention the most is what?
There's two things that have happened in the last hour that really sum up the portal experience, okay? One is Bryce Anderson from Texas A&M tweeted that he's entering the transfer portal, and then Matt Zenitz tweeted that Bryce Anderson has been hacked and has not decided if he's entering the transfer portal. And then soon after that, there were a few reports that Braden Shager, the quarterback from Hawaii, is entering the portal. This is a week after Timmy Ching, their head coach, quote tweeted someone who reported this and said he's not going anywhere. So, it's fluid. You got to keep your head on a swivel. It's been a wild past few 72 hours or so. And it's what we expect every year, right? It's just always a record. The records are just constantly there to be broken when it comes to the number of players going in. And I think this year the quarterback market is a lot more exciting to talk about. You had some big ones last year: Sam Hartman, Shedeur Sanders. But it's when you have the number of contenders that we have looking for a QB1 right now, and obviously with the way the dead period hits here soon, it's really like 2 weeks to get this all figured out. It's going to be fascinating to see who takes who.
Max, in terms of those quarterbacks, are you of the opinion? I know some believe Riley Leonard and Notre Dame feels like a good matchup. Yep. In addition to that, some of these other big names, do you have thoughts on where a particular big name ends up? Is there, whether it's a Dylan Gabriel and his next place, or who Florida State might end up with if they get one of these portal guys? Like, what are the big name quarterback stories for you right now?
Yeah, I think if I had to guess, I would think Riley Leonard probably is committing to Notre Dame here pretty soon. He's supposed to go visit this weekend. By all accounts, Oregon's looking really good for Dylan Gabriel. I believe he's going to be visiting there this weekend. That's a team that, certainly there's other guys. They could go after Dante Moore and other guys out there, but they really feel like they've got a lot of pieces coming back next year. They want to go get a veteran to replace Bo Nix and really make another playoff run next year. So I think that one makes sense for them. I think the real curiosity here is, what does USC do and what does Ohio State do? I think those are the two that kind of move the market, kind of start the domino effect here a little bit. Ohio State has been monitoring the transfer portal for quarterbacks here for the past week, just in case. A week ago, I would have told you I think probably Devin Brown's going in the portal. Well, Collin McCord's in the portal. So they're on the market now. We got to see kind of which guy they prefer for their system. And then USC's been a pretty interesting mystery along the way here, because I think by all accounts they're looking to go get one, potentially one that could be their starter over Malachi Nelson. And I know Lincoln Riley has visited Will Howard, but in terms of scheme and all that kind of stuff, who's the guy for them? Could Cam Ward be that guy, or is there somebody else that he feels like is the right guy? Is it Will Howard or somebody else? I think Cam Ward's the one right now that probably is pretty high on a lot of people's boards, and that's going to be, candidly, that's going to be quite a bidding war, I would imagine, for Cam Ward.
Well, and I can't remember if it was a Bruce Feldman only article last week or if you were involved in that as well.
Yep.
But the transfer portal quarterback story and the quote of Cam Ward being the guy, Chad, I referenced it, I think, last week.
Well, LT Overton is in the portal now for A&M. So the exodus continues.
Just stick in the gut there, Chad.
There you go, Chad. Just FYI, Chad.
Man's trying to do his job. He's doing his job. I'm sure that had nothing to do with me.
No, I mean, you just happen to be collateral damage and that we enjoyed. You don't always get to enjoy your job. Today, Max does, even when I give him super short notice and tell him we need him in 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Back to Cam Ward.
Yeah.
I don't think most people probably even paid close attention to Cam Ward, but I mean, they probably have heard the name. He goes to Washington State. Hey, they were kind of good this year. And yet in the article that you guys had in The Athletic last week, he was described as, if Matt Rule thinks that there's a $2 million quarterback that's worthy of that kind of money, then it would be Cam Ward. So it's had, I already knew who he was, but
yeah,
ever since reading that, I've been wondering, where's he going? Who's next? Who's going to dabble in the Cam Ward sweepstakes?
By the way, you know who his cousin is, right?
Charlie.
Quandre Diggs.
Oh.
Is that right? I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. Cam's a really interesting story. He went to Incarnate Word for a couple of years there, put up big numbers as a guy that transitioned into Eric Morris's air raid offense and just had a monster performance there. And then when Eric Morris goes to get the OC job at Washington State, he goes with him. And, Washington State had a couple upset wins this year. I think that's an offense that really all ran around him. They were among the national leaders in terms of pass attempts per game. And I think Cam Ward is extremely talented. I remember talking to him and his family when he first went in the portal out of Incarnate Word. And Lane Kiffin was recruiting him and told him straight up, you've got the tools to be a first-round quarterback. And I think that, have we seen like him play to that level yet? Probably not yet. And so that's why I'm very interested to see what's the right spot for him. Because I think going into this portal process, he and his camp are very open to going to the draft and believe that, hey, if we go to the combine, we're going to impress some people and we're going to move up some boards here. But the range that he's being told is kind of in that 2 to 5 range, which is, there's a huge gap in terms of money between the beginning and the end of that range. And so, can you find the right spot? I think he is one of these guys. Like Sam Hartman goes to Notre Dame, no disrespect, but Sam Hartman is what he is, right? I mean, I don't know that he really changed his draft position by going to Notre Dame. I think Cam Ward, if he goes to the right place, is a guy that can play his way into being an early round draft pick and make a lot of money next year wherever he goes.
Max, when I heard about Walter Nolan, I think my whole world went like your background, just a lot of greens and waviness and all that. I'm hoping beyond hope that A&M can come up with an argument and a discussion, and Mike Elko can calm it down, and he would not ultimately go into the portal. But give me your just level of surprise when you saw that Walter Nolan was considering the portal, and then just A&M overall right now, what's going on here, hit after hit after hit. The fact that the only good news is a guy got hacked at this point. Like, just talk about what's going on post-Jimbo with the Aggies.
I think the thing that when you look at that 2022 class, excuse me, clearly it's getting smoky in here or something. I'm coughing a little bit.
It's the portal, man.
It's the portal fumes. It's a little too much. The thing I always kind of wondered about that 2022 class, when you bring in, I think it was 18 top 100 recruits at one time. Obviously, they made it, they got all this momentum and made it very popular. But you kind of wondered, especially as you go into more national recruiting, do these guys really want to be at A&M? Do they really want to be in College Station? And obviously, the last 2 years have kind of tested that when the record isn't what you expect, when you're not competing for an SEC championship and stuff like that. And so I think I'm not surprised, when this coaching change happened, you really circle that 2022 class and just say, okay, how are they going to come out of this with a lot of these guys sticking around? I don't think anyone's worried about Connor Wigman, but certainly you go down the list and there's just a lot of players that are going to have a lot of interest from national title contenders if they're willing to go in the portal. And so I think the thing that's probably been revelatory is you got some guys there that just absolutely loved Elijah Robinson. And I'm not saying that they wouldn't transfer if Elijah Robinson were staying, but I do think that news coming out Sunday, just as this thing was opening up, I'm sure that it got into these players' heads a little bit. You saw, during his, 2-week stint as the interim head coach, players tweeting about how he should be the head man, right? So I think that there's a lot of love there, and I think the fact he's going to Syracuse to be the DC, it messes with their heads a little bit. And so I think that, and then other schools, looking at that situation say, all right, now's the time to pounce. And so, for Mike Elko and his staff, whatever he puts together here, just extremely important that you hold these guys together, but also important that they actually want to be there going forward, right? Because Mike Elko is going to want to set his culture and do things his way. And it's easy to say, hey, give me a spring and see if you can trust it and stuff. But you don't want to have to constantly be convincing these guys to want to be at A&M, right? You want them to be all in on this new regime. And so, these conversations going on this week are incredibly important for their imminent future here. But at the same time, I think if you're Mike Elko, you're just trying to get this part right no matter who you lose.
Max, will change the discussion a little bit from the portal. I don't know if you've heard this, but there is a playoff. They're going to finish the season out, and they're actually going to be teams playing each other for a chance to win a national championship. Longhorns made it.
Longhorns made it.
We've had you on numerous times already this season, and I don't remember us having a lot of like, hey, when the Longhorns make the playoffs, won't that be awesome? But they've certainly been in that territory all season long. Your general thoughts on where they are and kind of what your expectations for this team is going into the playoffs. I'm a little surprised at how much of a bull market there seems to be in picking this Texas team in this playoff mix.
Two questions for you guys on that, because it is an interesting hypothetical. One, if Bama was not in this playoff, do you think people would be picking Texas to win it all?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Would that make a big difference if it was Florida State over Bama? What do you think,
I think there would be anybody that would pick Texas now would certainly pick them even more so, I think, in that situation, because they'd like the matchup with Michigan, assuming they get by Washington. Yeah.
Yeah. The other part is, like, man, if this team had Jonathan Brooks, like, I think they probably maybe they'd be the runaway favorite to win this thing. It's really, but I'm just so impressed by the way they handled November, because obviously we've seen Texas teams not handle those pressure situations very well, and I thought, this team really is, even without Jonathan Brooks, who had a phenomenal year. It's hard not to say. I mean, the game in Tuscaloosa was incredible, right? But Texas is playing its best football right now. Like, I think there's no question about that. Last 2 weeks, they are playing their best football, and so I think I'd be very optimistic. And I think that especially when you get into just playing the matchups here, you've seen Washington before. It's kind of the perfect opponent to draw in terms of this revenge tour that you're going on, and it's a lot of the same personnel that you faced a year ago, coaching staff and players. So. I like that opportunity for Texas. And then, the whole world will be watching Michigan and Alabama. And we all know that's going to be a body blows game. That's going to be an incredibly physical game. And whoever comes out of that will be the favorite to win it all, obviously. But, man, I think if you're Texas, you kind of like the position you're in right now and the way that this playoff shook out. And the fact that Georgia's not in it, I think probably gives all four teams a sense of, like, man, this could be our year.
Max, in terms of the real quick, we haven't talked. We've been talking to folks about different stuff today with the playoff. Just real quick, you like Daniels to take the Heisman this weekend? When I heard 4 guys were going, I figured, well, that's a lot of split votes, and to me, split votes means this could be one of those years where a couple lost guy. Plus, he's a freak. The numbers he's putting up. You like Daniels or somebody else?
It's there was so much talk about Jaden Daniels last week, and there had to be because. He wasn't playing in the SEC title game, and everyone was kind of doing it was very much like down to 3, it seemed like last week. In fact, I was honestly a tiny bit surprised Marvin Harrison Jr. got invited to New York. I'm glad he is. I think they should invite 5 guys every year, and not just as few as possible. But I'm kind of wondering, once the ballots go out, people cannot talk about who they voted for, myself included. But I'm wondering if there has been a quiet flip to Penix over this week, right? Because voters, I'm wondering about that. I haven't seen the Vegas odds. I don't know if the Vegas odds are like picking up on that yet. But I think when it's time to put in the vote, there's probably going to be. I know from talking to my colleagues, there's going to be a little bit of hesitation on Jaden Daniels. He's had epic Heisman level numbers this year, right? There's no question about that. But you look at the 4 big games he played this year. One of them was a great comeback win over Missouri. But, you didn't get to play the fourth quarter against Alabama. You blow a lead against Ole Miss. You got shut down in the second half against Florida State. I'm kind of wondering if just the fact that LSU was not playing in an SEC championship and there wasn't really a game for LSU this season that was extremely significant to the overall national title picture or the story of the season. It makes me wonder a little bit if Penix is going to make a late push here. So I don't know. I could see Daniels winning, but I'm a little tempted to say I think the vote might be closer than people think.
Well, Max, then I got to ask you the question that I've literally asked everybody this week, because the quarterbacks in the playoffs are all very good. I mean,
yeah.
If you were to rank the 4, your personal ranking of the 4 at this moment would look like what? And by the way, before you answer, we haven't had anybody. I think I've asked 10 people, and there's a different combination every time. So Chad and I are waiting to see if we get our first repeat order.
Okay. It's interesting because if you'd asked me a week ago, I probably would have said Quinn 4th. And then he just went out and played the game of his life, Like, it's hard to doubt the kid of the 4, right? I mean, I think that I love, Texas fans saw Jalen Milroe early in the year. I think that team has flipped a switch over the second half of the season, and you've seen Tommy Rees figured out what to do with him, and they know that it's just deep shots and it's scrambles and it's not a lot of intermediate passing, but we're going to play to his strengths. I think that I think that I would go Penix 1. I would go. Milroe versus McCarthy is tough though. I think I'll go Milroe 2, McCarthy 3, Ewers 4.
It's another different order, Chad.
Yeah, no, it is. It's all about how you want to interpret these guys. Because like you said, Ketch, they're all good. It's not like there's one guy where you just go, well, there's a guy that guy couldn't take my team down the field in a big moment. It just depends on how you want to do it. Max is kind of speaking to
but
it.
But of the four, I mean, I'm seeing the comments here. Like, if you told me at the end of this playoff Quinn was the best of the four, you'd be like, yeah, okay, I can see that.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, there's more to it than just the independent play of the quarterback, but and I just love how Texas' defense is playing right now, obviously. But shoot, I mean, if Quinn Ewers really flips the switch, and over this 3-4 game stretch here, he is playing the best football we've ever seen him play in college football against the best competition he's faced. It'd be an incredible story, and it wouldn't be that shocking based on what we know about his potential.
Yeah, Max, I went Quinn, Penix, Milroe, and then McCarthy, but I'm a UT homer. So you know what they say about me. I'm just a UT homer, so
Well, Max, I think you're the
first. And if you don't like my order, it's the fumes. It's the fumes of the portal. You know what I mean? It's the exhaust.
No, I think there's an argument for yours. I do think I think you can make an argument that the two best guys might be at the Sugar Bowl, and I like your argument for Penix being on top because he's a hell of an all-around quarterback.
Okay, if you're Texas, would you not trade Quinn for any of those guys? If you're a Texas fan,
I would trade him for Penix.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe the guy. Yeah,
and my order is Penix, Milroe, Ewers, and McCarthy. And believe me, I've taken a lot of heat for that. And what I was going to say, Max, is that I actually appreciate the fact you're the only, because we've had a lot of people put Quinn 1 or 2. Yeah. And I think you make a really good point until this past weekend where he has his best game of the season against Oklahoma State. It had been a while since we'd seen a game where you would say, well, that's the best guy in the playoffs should they make it. So it's kind of interesting to me. Maybe it's just the Alabama game, but there's a lot of love for Quinn and kind of where he is when he's been very good this year, but you wouldn't say he's been elite.
You know what? I think about it more. I kind of want to put McCarthy 4th just because if you go watch their biggest games of the year, and look, I know they've got great running backs. They got the best offensive line in the country. They play to what they can do. But I mean, if you ask JJ McCarthy to throw for 400 yards to win a playoff game this year, I don't know if he can do it. And I think we know. We just saw Quinn throw for 350 in the first half of the game against a pretty solid defense. So I'm gonna flip it. I'll say Quinn 3, McCarthy 4, because McCarthy is he's an odd one to evaluate because it's just hard to drop him on any other team and kind of know what he is. You know what I mean? Because the way they play and having the best defense in the country, they can just get away with throwing for 200 yards most games, and it doesn't matter. So I'm going to go Quinn 3. I'm going to go McCarthy 4 because McCarthy melted down last year against TCU, had some really bad picks that lost in that game. We need to see him kind of play some winning football in some big-time moments here in this postseason.
Yeah, McCarthy's the one of the 4 I don't know if I can trust based on what I've seen him face and what he is. Those other 3 guys, I think they can get me out of some trouble, depending on what trouble I might be in. Those other 3 guys could, I think, kind of get him out.
Yeah, like 3rd and long, you don't like McCarthy out of those 4. Is kind of how I feel. Yeah.
Yeah, but those other guys, right? If it's 3rd and 8, those other 3 guys, I'll say, all right, fellas, I think you can figure something out, right? It can be figured out. That's it's an interesting stuff. So, Max, do you have? Are you leaning towards the Texas-Bama rematch right now? If you had to pick a championship game, or are you going with another combo?
I would say I'm leaning Texas-Michigan.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. Why do you like Michigan over Bama? Because I've heard some other people say that too.
Well, because I was busy writing about the Texas game during the Alabama-Georgia game, so I don't really know how that happened. I don't know what Alabama did. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. You guys know how that is. Though. You cover the morning game, you kind of miss the afternoon game a little bit.
Yep.
No, I think that Alabama just put together one of the best wins of the season, obviously against Georgia. Maybe expose Georgia a little bit because we've seen Georgia play like that a little bit offensively in some other games. But Alabama's like not that far removed from probably should have lost to Auburn. I mean, I think this is a team that has played a bunch of close games this year, probably closer than they should for where their overall talent level is. And I just think this Michigan team, I know you give Nick Saban a month to prepare for it. They're going to have a great plan. Maybe they can just out tough Michigan. But I do think that this Michigan team can really bully people. We've seen them do it over and over again. I think it's going to be a close game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any means. But I think this Michigan defense, I know people look at it and you see the stats and you just say, well, they're playing Big Ten offenses, so it doesn't translate. Look, TCU exposed that a year ago, so I could be dead wrong about this. But I do think this Michigan team has the right stuff to finally win a semifinal.
Gotcha. Okay.
Max, I'm good. I feel so bad that I threw you a last minute link that I'm not going to try to hold you any longer than we already
You're
have.
good. You're good. These it's like tossing a grenade in my DMs. You know what I mean? It's maybe, but today, I didn't respond and be like, Ketch, no way. What are you talking about? I was just like, all right, let's do it. So
not only did you do that, but you got the light system ready to go. So
I know, and
nothing
I'm
but
seeing your
respect.
commenters here. It seems like it's making them think less of me. So maybe I won't do this next time. But
yeah.
But that's okay.
It's not making me think less. It might have given me a mild headache, but I enjoy the vibe. The vibe's been really good. Thank you, Max.
Yeah, and hey, my pleasure, guys. Anytime.
Thanks, Max.
Max, I think that is the first time. See, we get new experiences. Sometimes people focus on their background and their atmosphere. Sometimes they don't. I think that's the first time we've had somebody that put an effect in, for the whole portal discussion. That's really good work, Ketch. That's next level thinking.
Level stuff.
Yeah, it's next level. And your sort of communication with him may have created it because he might have thought, all right, fine, I'll go on with you, but I'm doing the weird portal thing, boo, and then just turn it on. And
when he started the conversation, it was like, but before we do anything, we got to talk about. So I had no idea what he was talking about.
That's great.
And then when he said it, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that explains the weird laughing emoji. That's the first time I've ever sent someone the link to join us, and then they send me a laugh emoji. I was like, huh. Okay.
Oh, my God.
He's in a good mood. He's got some Rogue products.
He might. Yeah, he might have it going on. It did have a Rogue vibe to it. Yeah, that's true. Maybe we should get that background for when you talk some Rogue. We had one super chat from earlier I wanted to get your thoughts on because they're going Colt versus VY. Super chat $4.99. Who's better, 08 or 04 Texas? I can't decide. DJ, VY, CB versus Colt, Iraq Post, Shipley, and Thomas.
Now, this is an interesting one. Not 08-05. It's 08-04.
08-04. And did they mistakenly type Thomas in for what Thomas are they throwing in with Colt?
David Thomas. Oh, Earl.
Sorry.
It's Earl.
For Earl Thomas. Right. Okay, I was like, wait, that's not David Thomas still. Okay, got you. Thank you for the clarification. So 08 Colt, 04 Vince. Man. My gut as an outside observer would be to just lean towards the Vince team, but I don't know if it's right.
It's close. I'm still leaning 04 versus 2008. The 04 Longhorns would not have lost in Lubbock that night. I don't believe.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
I think that team, but the 04 team obviously loses to Oklahoma and the 08 team doesn't. The thing about the 08 team is that it's better offensively by a mile over 09, but defensively the 09 team is better by a mile. Mm-hmm. And I just feel like, it's an 04 Texas team that has Derek Johnson. that the 05 team doesn't. So the dynamics of what existed in 04-09, you had Sed Benson, you had Derek Johnson.
Yeah.
Those two guys weren't on the national championship team.
And in 04, you wouldn't have yet had Jamal Charles, correct? Jamal is a freshman the next year?
Correct.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I still go 04. I'd go 04. It'd be a good game.
Close.
It'd be fun.
If he says 05 versus anybody, I'm like, shut up. But if the first time anybody, good job, by the way, James. I don't think anybody's ever asked me 08 versus 04 in 15 years. I don't think anybody's ever asked me that because I'm thinking about it and I don't have an instant reaction. If somebody wants to say 2008, I understand the argument. The thing is, Vince would have scored 50 on that 08 defense.
Yep. Yeah, that's the thing. Colton, that crew would have had to score a lot.
It would have been a high-scoring game.
That would have been a fun game to watch. Thank you, James, for that super chat. Also, thanks to our guy Sandman, who very early in the show let us know StubHub, as of Monday, had tickets listed between $458 and $1581 per ticket. Most of the higher-level seats surpassed 500. Ticketmaster, $524 to $1942. I'm assuming he means obviously the game coming up with Washington, and he's not looking ahead.
Can I give some advice?
Sure.
Historically, no matter what the freaking game is, historically games, Sugar Bowl games, you can walk up the day of the game and find some pretty cheap tickets. I've never known anybody that's gone to the Sugar Bowl that hasn't waited on tickets that couldn't get in pretty reasonably in the walk-up. Even in games where the ticket prices have been pretty expensive. I can remember in 95 paying a bunch of money for my Virginia Tech tickets and then being pissed when a couple of my friends walked up and got in for $20.
Damn. Okay. There you go. Sandman.
So if there's ever a game to give it a shot, I personally I never make a trip where I don't have my tickets before I arrive. Right. But I'm letting you know that I've been involved in probably half a dozen Sugar Bowl games over the years for various reasons for different teams and obviously the Longhorns. And the walk-up experience, you can always get a cheaper ticket than you could early on. I'm just throwing it out there if somebody wants to take a chance. I'm letting them know it might be possible. Versus when I've gone to the Rose Bowls 3 different times, finding tickets the day of the game was next to impossible.
Yeah. All right. There you go. Thanks
for
for all
national championship game, Chad. I didn't see a single person selling a single ticket for that SC Texas game. Not one. And there were people everywhere that wanted tickets. I didn't see one person sell a ticket, whereas every time I've gone to the Sugar Bowl, there's always people outside with 1 billion tickets.
That's interesting. Could be a difference there. Maybe the same difference this year with Cali and New Orleans and Cali. All right, Ketch. I got a couple more things before we're done. You got anything else we need to hit today?
No, I'm good. What do you got?
Okay. First, I want to remind everybody why I'm so excited about Saturday. I'm going to Hayes City Store. Hayes City Store in Driftwood. Get out to FM 150 if you get a chance. My wife and I, we're probably going with the old double pork chop trip. She loves that grilled pork chop. I'm going to try the blackened pork chop. So I don't want to totally affect the way you look at that menu, but that's where we're going. But they have incredible stuff all over the menu. The burgers are awesome. The pizza's incredible. They've got 40 taps out there if you love beer. They've got whatever drink snobbery you're into, they've got it. The 40 taps of fresh beer all over Texas, great craft beer. They've got all that stuff taken care of. If you're a vodka guy like me, they've got that stuff taken care of. You want to go bourbon? You want to go tequila? They've got it all. I'm going to do the bourbon milkshake as part of my dessert. They're just incredible. Hayes City Store. That's the QR code. Those that have been out there have given us rave reviews. We had somebody take their wife out there, and she loved the frozen margarita. Somebody else goes out, and they love the burger. Someone else goes out, and they love that chicken fried steak we've talked about. it's just great. Can't wait to go see Travis and Tamara and the crew. It's always a good time. And we're taking our friend Sherry out there. I love to introduce people to Hayes City Store. We've done it for birthdays and just kind of hanging out. She's going to love it because she loves good food, loves hanging out with friends. She loves hanging out with us. Go figure. No, you can't account for taste. But we are going to love it at Hayes City Store, just like when I took Ketch out there, when I take my parents out there. You take your folks out there. Trust me, they'll want to go back. Hayes City Store, FM 150 in Driftwood. The other quick thing.
Have you told her that I've asked how she's doing?
Yes, of course I have. I know.
Okay.
I've told Sherry that you have asked about her and that you did want to know how she is.
Because I still have never felt more insulted than when I said, "Hey, what's your story?" And she was like, "I'm not going to tell you anything. You don't care. You're not going to remember this tomorrow." What?
I will make sure this weekend to reiterate that you'd like to know how she's doing.
Yes.
I'll send your best.
Know
how about that?
That I always ask about her.
Yes.
Because I'm a good, caring, considerate, loving person.
I will absolutely do that. I will do that.
By the way, tell Wendy I said hello too.
I'll do that. I'll do that too. By the way, speaking of caring and understanding, before we get done, do you still have your appendix?
Yes.
Okay. I do not. I had my appendix removed. You might remember I had it removed in 2011 while we were in our radio run. Let's just send out some good thoughts today to our head coach, Jeff. You might have seen it. Big Mike McCarthy with an emergency appendectomy. Mine probably wasn't as far along as what he's dealing with. I hope it wasn't super serious, but when that stuff starts to happen, sometimes they got to get you in there pretty quick. So, Coach McCarthy, we hope you are doing well today. Ketch, they're saying he might be ready to go Sunday night.
I know that's weird. I don't know what the turnaround time is on that, but I'm always a little weirded out when the very first thing they say with a story like that is, "Don't worry, he'll be there for football."
Yeah, well, you think about it. During our lives, that's one of those operations that's changed a lot. When you used to get the appendix out, you'd be laid out for like a week, 2 weeks. But when I got it done in 2011, I remember came home after it was done. And by the end of that day, I honestly felt pretty good. I could get up. Yeah, I could get up. I could walk around. It wasn't one of those where if I tried to just get out of a bed, it was excruciating pain. Like modern medicine has done some amazing stuff in a lot of ways, but that's one of those where those basic surgeries, they're not as long as it's just the time is just shrunk throughout our lives. So we'll hope for the best for the head coach to be there Sunday night. But hey, coach, if you don't need to be there, I know it's the Eagles and everything, but hey, your health is more important than anything else. I'm the only Cowboy fan that'll say that to you. Your team can handle it if they need to, but get well soon. Mike McCarthy.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yes, sir.
I've been watching Liverpool for like the last hour and a half. Could you even tell?
You know what? I had forgotten, other than when you mentioned the card thing at the beginning. I think you've done a hell of a job of not being distracted. Can you give us a score report?
Yeah, Liverpool's up. I'm watching the game right now. I'm not looking at you. I'm looking at Mo Salah, and I'm talking to you because I'm a professional. Camera right here, you right here. It's 1-0 Liverpool on the road. Sheffield United. They got about 25 minutes and change to play. I feel like I've been a total pro in making you and Max and Peter all think that I'm looking at you guys.
You have done an excellent job. The fact that it's 1-0, I thought you were about to tell me it was like 4-0 Liverpool, and you just haven't been worrying in a while. But it's a close game. The fact that you're still focusing in and making me feel like you actually give a damn and our guest, that's incredible. Well done. Well done.
Liverpool scored its goal. I did a very quiet, little fist pump. That's the only tell all show long.
I didn't even notice that. And earlier during the show, when I found out that Basantis and Diggs are going into the transfer portal, I damn near started throwing stuff in here. So I'm the one that's been out of control. You've been a total pro today. Thank you. Well done.
Thank you. I wasn't a total pro when I hit Max Olsen with the sneaky, see you in 15. Here's the link. But otherwise, solid.
Hey, it worked out. It worked out. All right, as we hit 3 o'clock, we'll remind you, Football with Friends is coming up at 3:30 with Alex Dunlap. Also tonight, it's The Outsiders. What are you drinking Wednesday? We've been reintroducing you to some of Chance Mock's old friends, some of his old teammates with The Outsiders. But tonight, we're going to introduce you to one of Chance's new friends that he's found on social media. Her name is
for her to be a teammate.
Well, that's a whole nother issue. I don't know that one yet. But Tracy Cowley is her name. She is at TC Gold Rush on Twitter. If you want to look her up, you can. She is apparently a big-time sports fan, LSU, San Francisco 49ers, and others. She is also extremely attractive, in my opinion. And if you care, she may or may not. Apparently, she does have an OnlyFans page. So maybe we'll ask about that tonight. 9 o'clock is when it starts. 9:15 is when Tracy is scheduled to join us. Should be a lot of fun. Thank you for.
I have a friend that is on OnlyFans. At least she used to be. I don't know if she still has a page, but she would get naked and cook fried chicken.
Man, they have to be.
I once asked her, I was like, hey, how much does it cost? And it was very uncomfortable. And she was like, why do you want to know? And it's like, well, there's two ways to answer that question. One, I'm a heathen. There's part of me that just wants to know how much it would cost to see you naked. But the other part is like, what's the cost of going? What is the OnlyFans charge rate when you cook like fried chicken, either naked or in lingerie or whatever? I didn't get an answer.
Interesting. Does the price change if I go blackened over fried? Like,
I don't know. The inquiring minds are the things we want to know.
That's weird. Okay, so I don't know if we're going to get into that stuff on The Outsiders tonight or if we'll just talk sports, but we'll see. Join us tonight for that. Thanks for supporting Orange Bloods Live. Like, subscribe, get those notifications. We appreciate all of you. Thanks to Blake, the super producer, for all of his great work. Thanks to Specs for getting us hooked up with that chat. A lot of great chats and super chats today and 3 big-time guests. Tomorrow, we will be back on a Thursday show. As of right now, I don't think we have a guest scheduled for tomorrow. So we may be able to kind of exhale a little bit, and it'll have to be us. We may have to work tomorrow. So come on back and see what that looks like. Until 12 noon tomorrow, we are House Divided.